Candle. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day. Well, good evening, metalheads. Welcome to Midnight Metal, episode 29. I'm your host, your viceroy of verisimilitude, your master of fun and wonder, and all those other names. Robert Meyer, Burnett. Yeah, and I'm feeling metal tonight. And you know who else is metal? I don't even know what I was about to say. But I'll tell you who else was metal. Who else is metal? He'll tell you he's metal. My co-host for Saturday night, a man that you never want to end a Saturday night without, Mr. Dave Parker. Dave, are you feeling metal tonight? Yeah.
Of course. I'm so pumped. We have a great guest. We have a great show. There's so much to talk about. I end up looking forward to this the entire week. This is the party place
Goddamn
to
right
be,
you do.
man. This is the party place to be. If you're here, you know you're fucking metal.
Dude, you are. I mean, you're so metal. Remember, give you a little silver sphere. I mean, that's how metal we are on this show, man.
Drill the brain, baby.
Now, I have it on good authority that you got something that makes you extra metal tonight. I see them on your head.
Oh, yeah. Connie really hooked us up.
Connie from the Experiential Engagement Division of Harman.
Thank you. Yes. And boy, did she want me to look more professional, and she certainly did. She hooked me up so well. I called you. I was stunned. I was kind of like flabbergasted at how well she hooked me up and treated me. And these are amazing. These are the Live 600s that I'm using right now. They sound fucking amazing.
Those would be the JBL Live 600s.
Sorry. Yes, the JBLs, of course. Everything JBL. The unofficial sponsor of Midnight Metal now, I would say. But yeah, these sound great. Everything is just fantastic. I have been charging it and tearing through the stuff. It's fucking incredible. So thank you, Connie. Really, really, really nice.
Connie, I have to tell you, Connie makes your dreams come true. She made sure that Harman is a subsidiary of Samsung, and they also oversee JBL. She was the person that got me the soundbar,
right,
to give away for the 400th episode of Robservations, and she's also sent me and John Campion many nice, expensive pairs of headphones. She's sent Elizabeth stuff. She's amazing,
incredible.
And I know that it was funny. I even sent her an email saying, "I don't think I've ever heard Dave Parker that happy before." When he when you called me on the phone, you were just you were incredulous. You were like, "What is this?"
I was almost crying.
You were almost crying.
And Rob, you have heard me that happy before. Come on.
I don't know. It was a different kind. It was a different kind of happy, man.
Well,
it was an unexpected joy.
It was. I'm not used to getting, gifts and things like that. I know, it's par for the course for you. You get hooked up with a lot of stuff, but you put in your years of experience and time and charm to do this. So, you know
me.
I mean, people just want to shower you like a golden shower of gifts. So, it
really depends it really depends who's doing the showering. But
Rob,
Connie certainly can.
Yeah, I'm just not used to the golden shower that I received, and I'm a fan now.
I know, with your mouth open. That's always the best way.
Jeez.
Come on now.
In due time.
I have to know you better. But no, Connie sang over at the Experiential Engagement Department at Harman. Listen, Harmon, give Connie a raise, because in terms of experiential engagement, she's engaging us YouTubers out there, and she's making sure that your products are getting seen and heard or talked about at least. So give that girl a raise.
Yeah, and they're amazing. All the products the funny thing is, like, when I do my workouts and I go for my walks and stuff like that, I have just regular wired JBL earbuds, and I always use those. But that's what I have been using. So,
but no longer, right, Dave?
No, I've been a big fan of JBL. It's like really great sound. I was, again, this is an unsolicited paid advertisement, but if you want the best sound for your fucking metal or anything else, for your gaming, movie watching, whatever, I would definitely give these a whirl for sure.
Yeah, because they are metal.
Yeah, they are. They're fucking great.
They're fucking great.
What's been going on with you this week? What's metal with you this week?
Well, I'll tell you. I kind of got a little metal today. David Bianculli, who is the TV critic for NPR Radio, was talking the other day about the CBS network show Evil.
Oh.
And, he said it was one of his favorite shows on TV. I've heard other people talk about Evil being a good show, kind of an under the radar kind of a show, kind of a deal there. And I came in from doing my show. I was up late. I kind of wanted to take a nap, but I sort of sat down on the bed, clicked on the TV, and I started watching it. And before I knew it, I was 5 episodes deep into, I think, the 13-episode first season. And it's got an X-Files vibe to it, but it's basically Mike Coulter, who was Luke Cage. On Luke Cage, he's a beautiful man. Like, if I could be a black man, I would want to be Mike Coulter. That guy is incredibly handsome. He has an incredible physique. I'd just like to be him. But he plays he's a priest, and he works for the archdiocese. And him and his Muslim compatriot, who is kind of like MacGyver, who knows everything about equipment, computers, they go and they try and debunk things and see if they need to exorcise demons from people for real. And they end up meeting a psychologist, a female psychologist, like the Dana Scully of the show. And she ends up helping them. They need somebody who's a skeptic to, and it's like a spiritual procedural with horror overtones. But then there's this building mythology, and it kind of reminds me of a cross between X-Files and the Exorcist TV show,
which was a great underrated show. Most people missed out on the Exorcist. I highly recommend it.
Me too.
Both seasons. The first season's really great, and if you're thinking like, well, it just seems like the regular kind of supernatural paranormal show or anything, first season, get to episode 5 and then come at me. Then come talk to me.
Well, I was surprised. Episode 4 of Evil went to an incredibly dark place. I was like, whoa. And no, it's got some really neat stuff, and they're building a mythology. And the guy from Lost, the villain in Lost, was his name Linus? Was it? He who's also in Person of Interest. He plays a character that may or may not be an incarnation of Total Evil, certainly an agent of the devil. But it's a very interesting show that has a very interesting mythology. And I know it's a network show, but it was taken off CBS and it's now on Paramount Plus. So when I get to the second season, I'm going to have to get Paramount Plus.
Damn it.
I know.
Damn it. But let me ask you, the lead character, the guy from Luke Cage, does he kick ass for the Lord?
He does kick ass for the Lord. And he's not above taking some magic shrooms to have visions, religious visions. It's really interesting. There's just a lot of stuff in it that's happening, and I'm there for it, Dave. It was making me happy to watch. I was intrigued by it.
That's cool. It reminds me of, did you ever catch the Constantine animated film that DC Animated did? Now that's fucking metal. That was metal. Absolutely insane, crazy with the demons and the gore and the sex and everything. I was really surprised and was like, wow, this might be one of the best ones that they've done. It was really cool.
Yeah, I thought it was cool too.
But you know what?
Those are really hit and miss for me.
I was just going to bring up, but you know what wasn't? It was a little miss for me, which was Batman: The Long Halloween Part 1. I was a little
Really?
it just didn't have energy to it. It was just sort of the animation's really nice. It just but it just you didn't feel the sense that you got when you were reading those comics or the novel collection of The Long Halloween, where you were like, oh,
No.
every issue. It was just kind of I haven't quite put my finger on it yet, and I obviously want to see part 2 before I
Sure.
have full judgment on it. But I was like, yeah, I don't know, something about it was just like this feels very languid. That it was the
Oh, good
editing.
word, Dave. Language sums it up.
The editing was really spaced out. There was like long pauses between things with the acting performances and everything. And I was like, is this me? What's going on here? And I love that graphic novel. So that was a little non-metal. But we do have a couple kind of cool movie metal things going on here.
We do?
Well, yes. Today or yesterday was the 30th anniversary of a very metal movie, T2.
Wow. Da-na-na. Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. It still holds up. Not just holds up, but it holds up amazingly. It's just a great movie.
Oh, he's stuck.
Uh-oh. There you go.
Here's my quarter scale, of course.
Robert Patrick. Robert Patrick. It's amazing.
My quarter scale, some of his bullet holes. I got to get he has magnetic bullet hits. They attach magnetic.
That's really, really cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah. And then also, yesterday was also a very important
It's a great figure.
Day in movie history.
Do tell.
Well, yesterday, the very unlucky and tragic employees of the UNITA Medical Supply Company unleashed trioxin out into the air, and zombies ran amok in Dan O'Bannon's Return of the Living Dead. Possibly easily one of my top 5 to top 2 favorite zombie movies of all time.
Really? What are some of the others?
Well, Dawn of the Dead, of course.
Yeah, it's the best.
Yeah, that one. That
one. Dawn of the Dead's the GOAT.
Yeah, of course. But Return of the Living Dead is more fun on repeat viewing. I also really love Day of the Dead, and I love
Day of the Dead too.
I love the 3 Dead, the Romero Dead trilogy, of course. But as far as repeat viewing goes, I think Return, James Karen, Clu Gulager, Linnea Quigley, that's the
soundtrack,
punk soundtrack, Rocky Erickson, 45 Grave, The Damned, The Cramps. I mean, there's my happy place.
That is great. I mean, we're the 91. We're going back to 91, 80s, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What a great era. We lived through a great era.
Yeah, it's just funny now though, because I don't know if we have movies that are in the same spirit anymore. I mean, maybe it's because we've seen so much stuff that it just doesn't feel like it's for us. I also checked out Fear Street 1994.
How's that?
It's fun. It's definitely a reflection of the Scream era kind of movies. Even down to the score, which Marco Beltrami co-wrote. So it's definitely has some of that in it. It's definitely an R-rated movie, which is surprising when it comes down to like R.L. Stine, inspired material. But yeah, and it's kind of cool because next week, Fear Street 1978 happens, which is all a camp slasher movie, and then they go the week after is like Fear Street 1866 or 1666 or something like that, which is more of a witch thing, but I guess they're all connected. And I really so far so good. You know,
Well, that's
not
good.
not blown away like, oh my fucking god, you got to see this. But yeah, pretty damn solid. Pretty damn
Well,
solid.
that's good. Did you watch the Tomorrow War?
I've not watched the Tomorrow War yet.
I watched it.
I'll probably check that out tomorrow. I'll check it out tomorrow. How what are your thoughts?
You know what? I
Uh-oh.
thought it was I thought it was an enjoyable B movie. You know, it's interesting. Like to me, if the movie was made for, if it had come out in like 1984,
Right.
and it was made for a limited budget, I think it would have been a kind of a genre classic.
Okay.
But it just felt like a lot of it was just this perfunctory. I mean, they do the setup. These ham-fisted Sid Field like screenplays that are written. I mean, the first 10 minutes is like all set up, and you
Check off those boxes.
Well, it even does this thing where there's like a teaser that you're going to come. It's like this teaser happens, and then it quickly goes to 28 years ago, and it's. And then when you meet our character, you learn everything you need to know about the character in the first 10 minutes, and it goes from there. And it has sort of an interesting setup. It's very much a B movie, but with an A list. I mean, it's interesting to me that it comes from Skydance. And look, Skydance put out the Kelvin movies, but they've put out like they bought the Terminator franchise, so they gave us Terminator Genesis
and Dark Fate
and Dark Fate and
lots of great stuff there.
And I feel that the Skydance's biggest problem. I mean, they got the Mission Impossible franchise, but
Right.
their biggest problem is their scripts feel so much a product of the Hollywood screenplay system. Like the people, whoever is covering the scripts over there, they're picking like the most obvious. Oh, this was written to be a perfect studio tentpole script, but in doing so, they're monumentally not as creative as they should be. And this had a lot of interesting twists and turns. Like, it was really interesting, but you're watching this. I kind of felt the same way that I felt about Battleship. Did you ever see Battleship? The alien invasion battle with Tyler Kitsch and
Liam Neeson. And,
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know people who fucking love the movie, and I'm like, boy, this is how I feel about Battleship. I'll take one of the Transformer movies any day over Battleship.
Yeah, I mean, but Battleship could have had a lot. The script was so like this generic tentpole studio thing, and it doesn't engage you on any level. Like there's like,
It's like
payoffs and
game.
setups. Yeah, it really is. I mean, but there was. Look, I did think that the monsters were cool. I mean, I like the creature designs.
That's
good. But again, it's like, okay, what if the derelict spaceship from Alien was buried in the ice for thousands of years, and it thaws out and all the eggs hatch, and that's where the aliens come from? I'm like, okay, that's fine.
Sounds like the TV series they're getting ready to do.
Yeah, Alien on Earth. Come on, guys, really?
Yeah,
Whatever. It's about
know.
because Alien screams income inequality to me, Dave.
I mean, I just think they haven't gotten an Alien movie right after Cameron's, and there are definitely things, of course, to like about Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection, and even Prometheus and Covenant, to I think lesser degrees personally. I mean, you can't fault the design and the look and everything else, but they just never found a way to, and it's an unfair thing, but you know what? James Cameron figured out a way to top Alien in its own way and make it its own thing, but no one has able to top that. And it's just
okay. Let me ask you this: Why, Dave? Why is it that we've got two Alien versus Predator movies? We've got Prometheus and Alien Covenant, and all of these things, to me, they have overcomplicated the whole process.
Yeah, and funny enough, it's the same way with the Predator movies. After Predator 2, they've all been kind of like, as
Although
well.
I did like Predators.
There was some good stuff in it. I thought it was miscast. I thought it was kind of miscast, and it wasn't as sort of charismatic. And the thing is, Lawrence Fishburne, great actor and everything, but you obviously knew that was supposed to be Schwarzenegger, and they just couldn't get him. So it's like, come on, guys, it's like, to me, it's like, well, then don't have the role in there. So why I think after Aliens, I also think the studio system changed. They're like, oh, well, this is a very profitable franchise, so we have to put too many cooks in the kitchen, and we have to really. And the thing is, I think the main producers, if you watch any of Charlie de Lauzirika's, amazing
superlative documentaries,
definitive,
yep,
they didn't know what they wanted, and it just happened to be that someone like Cameron, who took bits and pieces from sci-fi classics before they're made, like Starship Troopers and everything, really like found a great combo that was different enough and that evolved the series. But the thing is, after that, again, their big mistake with Alien 3 in a way was like, but again, I can't imagine the daunting task of having to follow up Aliens, of doing this prison planet or a monk planet or anything like that. I don't know where you go, except maybe they could have gone to, and no offense, but not Prometheus and not Alien Covenant, but go to the world where the aliens actually came from to really wipe them out completely in sort of, but again, where do you find that balance? I don't know. It's it's almost an impossible task. And that's the thing. And I thought there was interesting things about like Prometheus with like the space jockeys. But the thing is like, then when they do them, what's disappointing to me is like, well, you guys just cheated. The space jockey in Alien is a giant. He's not 8-9 feet tall. He's like 15 feet, 20 feet
right.
tall.
And he's not in an exosuit.
Right.
I mean, and I feel like one of the things that I love about the first Alien, and I was talking about this when I was on with Critical Drinker doing an analysis of Alien. The thing that I loved about Alien so much is it's got this Lovecraftian old ones vibe that the old gods that unknowable. And the great thing about Alien is that we're never going to know where the derelict spacecraft is from. We're never going to know. And there are just cosmic mysteries. First of all, even if you had faster than light travel, we could not get anywhere near getting across our own galaxy. Right. Our own galaxy, and there's billions of other galaxies. So the unknown, the infinitude of the cosmic void is beyond our comprehension. And what I loved about Alien is we're touching, humanity was unfortunate enough to tread over the ground on LV-426 and find that derelict ship. Right. And it posed something that we should never have an answer to. And in two movies, especially Prometheus, I mean, Prometheus going from the dawn of time all the way forward, it not only did it demystify everything, but it also made the engineers idiots.
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, it made them so stupid. Like you're like, these people, like, what, you're gonna drink? And the movie was stupid. So you drink this black goo, and then you disassemble at the genetic level and fall into the water, and that's supposed to start the biosphere of a planet. And maybe it's going to be Earth, maybe it's not, whatever. And then millions of years go by, and when humanity finally heeds the clarion call that draws us out into space, the engineers just want to kill us. Well, now we want to kill you. Like, wasn't the whole point was that you're creating life that you wanted, and you'd been on Earth before, because in the cave paintings we see that the engineers were on Earth, and it was just like it all amounted to nothing.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing. It's just like they're chasing ghosts with these movies now. They're chasing the ghosts of the first two. Now, gun to your head, you had to make an Alien movie now with everything that's existed. But, they go to you and go, we really want to get back to kind of where we started. What would you do? What would you do do you think that would also thrill audiences, that would really like, boom, here we go again?
Well, if I remember it correctly, the Dark Horse did a comic that I would adapt.
They've done many.
This one is called Hive.
Oh, okay.
And
Okay.
Kelly Jones drew it. It was a limited series that came out in '92, and the plot. I'll read the plot from Stanislaw Mayakovsky once wrote a book about the cybernetic ant he designed to infiltrate a hive in order to gain precious knowledge about the species. Now, a beautiful young thief named Gil has approached Mayakovsky to recreate his experiment to infiltrate an alien hive to gain something else precious. She wants to use his experience and expertise not in the pursuit of scientific knowledge, but in the pursuit of the alien Queen Mother's royal jelly, the galaxy's most valuable commodity. The mission is a perilous one, but the motives are compelling. And they design a cybernetic alien to steal the alien Queen Mother's royal jelly, the galaxy's most valuable commodity, but a powerful corporation wants what they have. And it goes from there. And it's, I mean, because you want it. Alien's a horror franchise, you know, and the cosmic existential dread of it all is secondary. And what I see, to me, I would look at. Aliens are global warming with teeth, essentially, and they are when the natural order of things has become so hostile against human life that how do we stand in the face of that? And not only that, at the same time, the aliens threaten to transform us because, after all, the big chap in the first Alien is a hybridization of a human being and the alien embryo that's the facehugger implants, just like the aliens take on the characteristics of whatever species birthed them. So wouldn't it be interesting that the aliens themselves are the final result of evolution? Like it's an evolutionary dead end, but it's also a perfect organism. So what happens if humanity's fate is to just be alienized? You know, and how do we prevent that? It's interesting because I thought that the Tomorrow War certainly was informed by the alien mythology a little bit because they were totally ripping off. There's an idea in it where they completely rip off the idea of this derelict ship. You know, they even make certain comments about it. And I'm like, that to me is, you have to sort of lean into those things. I mean, and like, you know, I did like the idea. Obviously, Alien 3 was going to be Vincent Ward's Wooden Planet of the Monks. That could have been pretty interesting because the religious overtones, they didn't go that way because I think it was too out there. But still, you know, I really think that the aliens they're a crucible. They test humanity. And if humanity survives, that makes it through the crucible, we are better than we were before. And maybe that is the cosmic crucible that is as our future is destined to be, that we have to run that gauntlet of aliens to come out on the other side. But you have to keep the cosmic horror, because not only are aliens themselves fearsome, but they will destroy you from the inside out, and the result of that destruction will become more of them. You know, the humanoid. That's why I think that the alien is so horrific, because it's born of a human being. You know, I mean, it came out of Cain, and it's a hybridization of whatever the alien embryo is, the facehugger laid in there, and the host species, and it's just all horrifying. And I think that later on, Prometheus and Alien Covenant, what a useless movie. It doesn't know what it wants to be. It's a paranoid android making experiments. Then they just throw in an alien. It's just, and why is it that now the aliens are the result of a paranoid android from Earth who goes crazy?
Yeah, I have many problems with the Fassbender characters in both those films, and that was clearly what Ridley was way more interested in than the aliens. He was just throwing him in because he had to, because it's like, oh, well, you know, we put that name on there and then boom, you know, we make money, which they did. But again, they just sort of left me cold and were like, well, this is just more of the same thing. I think it's very hard, but I mean, you've picked a very highbrow esoteric way to go about. If you would do one, I would, you know, honestly, I'd just rip off Galaxy of Terror and throw aliens in it.
Galaxy of Terror is really good.
And it's a horror movie.
It's a horror movie. And by the way, that movie casts a very interesting spell.
Yes.
That movie is, I mean, yes, because I mean Cameron worked on it. There's a lot of alienisms in there, but for a low budget. So I guess what I really miss is I really miss movies like Galaxy of Terror that that had a really interesting sci-fi horror bent to them. They had, even though it was low budget, you know, Roger Corman special, it has a really interesting feel to it.
Oh yeah, like right from the get go. And the thing is, that movie doesn't waste any time. That thing just gets going, and they're there at the planet and everything else, and it's crazy. Not as crazy as Henry Wolf, which is obviously the comments he's making are definitely out here to capture our attention. But Henry, you keep doing you. I'm going to keep moving on with what we're talking about.
I haven't seen what Henry Wolf has been
Henry,
saying.
Henry posed as Charlie Band last night in your chat, and that was kind of fun for a little bit, and then now he's having more fun with some of his comments. But good on him. He got his laugh in there. So there you go.
Are you going to buy Charlie's book?
Of course.
Yeah, I gotta buy it too.
I won't be in it. I don't think he's going to be covering us or anything like that. He'll talk more about fucking, you know, ginger dead man and
Evil Bong
than he will any of the time that we were there. Unfortunately, not that, like, look. Not that we got a chance to even really put our stamp on anything that significant at that time there. You know, unfortunately, it would have been great, you know, if he could have just kept going on the right path for a little while. I mean, but again, it's like talking about Galaxy of Terror. You know, no one, you know, the Asylum, Sci-Fi Channel, no one's doing Galaxy of Terror type stuff, or no one's doing, you know, Charlie was doing like outside of the box kind of interesting, you know, sci-fi, fantasy, and horror movies. And, you know, again, what Roger was trying to do was do his spin on what he was always doing, except then, you know, studios started taking his ideas, basically Star Wars, and it was like, oh, he always said, oh, they're doing what we are, just with a lot more money and better. So he was still trying. And now I just think people have just gotten lazy, and they're not trying with that stuff anymore. They're trying to make something kind of cool. No,
there was a pulp sensibility to those things that really work. Like I go back and I look at movies like one of my favorites is Humanoids from the Deep. You know, people laugh at that, but because you've got humanoid water creature rape scenes.
They're mutated
salmon. Yeah, and but that James Horner score, beautiful location photography, the creature designs really cool.
Rob Bottin creature designs.
Yeah, and I'm like, I've always liked that movie because it's definitely a pulp. It's like reading a horror paperback from the 80s. And whether it was sci-fi horror, but there was interesting ideas, and they took themselves seriously. Like the Asylum stuff I can't watch, to me, because it's just parody and it's camp. And all due respect to Anthony Ferrante, who made the Sharknado movies, I can't watch those things. And I'm like, look, you could try and make some really interesting pulp sci-fi stuff. And I think that, you know, when you talk about Return of the Living Dead, that's what we're missing.
Yes.
You know, horror is either ghosts, like paranormal activity, or Insidious, or The Conjuring, and those movies are fine, you know, the ghosts, but I miss the pulp horror sensibility with monsters, Dave. Monsters.
Well, you know me, and I'm all about pulp. I mean, The Hills Run Red is pure pulp horror. That is, you know, 80s pulp paperback, nasty.
Yeah,
sleazy. It's not supposed to be highbrow. Never was.
No, but I like highbrow. Look, I like Karen Kusama's The Invitation a great deal.
So do I.
You know, and Ari Aster, if you look at like Hereditary and Midsummer, you got a little pretentious for me, but because I'm like, I would have been out of there the first whatever. But I did. Hereditary to me is like, okay, it's kind of Rosemary's Baby, but I really do like movies like The Invitation, and then The Witch and The Lighthouse and things like that are more.
I appreciate those, and there's definitely a place for those. I don't think everything has to be that, though. Give me some more pulp. I mean, that's the thing. Like when I was really getting into the genre and stuff like that, like Fright Night. That's fucking catnip. That is like a perfect blend of, it's not stupid. It's really well done. It's fun.
It's
And
fun, but it has a bite to it. It's nasty.
well, yeah. But
Jerry Dandridge will kill you.
yeah, but the thing is, I don't think what they're trying to do is skull fuck the audience to death. So when they walk out of the theater, they're just like, and I hear this Werewolves Within movie is a lot of fun as a horror comedy, and I hear that's got the sort of pulpy nature of like Clue with a werewolf type of thing, which is kind of cool.
That's cool.
And I'm like, yeah, but again, it's just, I think because there seems to be so much money at stake now.
Well, yeah, I don't, look, that's why I like the Pierce Brothers, The Wretched.
Yeah.
I watched it and I'm like, that movie was a lot of fun. It had a great pulp sensibility, but it still had bite to it. It had a really cool creature design, shot on location.
It was fun though, too. It had
a lot of fun. Yeah, and I miss that kind of, and again, I like the movie The Ritual as well.
I like The Ritual quite a bit. Yeah,
and it also at the end had a great monster, Dave.
But The Ritual takes everything very seriously.
Yeah.
But again, and you just have to look for them. There are fun pulp movies out there. There was one called The Shed that our friend Peter Block did that I actually enjoyed quite a bit. I thought that was like cool.
Did Mendez edit that?
Mike Mendez edited that film. But the thing is, a lot of those films don't get any attention because they're just small independent things and they just get thrown out on video. And it's just like, unless you really are like looking for stuff on Shudder, you're not going to find that stuff. And it's weird now because it just seems like the companies that you go to, they don't want the fun with it. And I think the other problem is too now there are so many cooks in the kitchen, even on a low budget level, where it's like, you gotta just sort of trust people, because if you don't, and unless you get someone like someone just mentioned The Frighteners, unless you get someone like Robert Zemeckis to back you as
right.
and protect you, who knows where Peter Jackson would have been now. I mean, he's an exemplary talent, of course, and always has been. I mean, you can see that right from Bad Taste.
Well, I mean, look, one of my favorite filmmakers of all time, especially in the horror genre, is David Cronenberg. And when his original body horror films knocked me out. And he what he was able to do is take this sort of portentous scientific experimentation, mad scientist angle, and then yet set it firmly in the real world. Like if you think about some of the outlandish concepts,
and wrap it in a very pulp sellable B-movie wrapper.
Yeah, that's why I think the movie that I'm most excited about that's coming out, aside from all the Marvel movies and everything that's being made, is his Crimes of the Future.
Right.
Because I've wanted to see that movie for 25 years since I read his original script, and it's an extension of all of his body horror ideas, and that's what I really want to see, because, to me, when I was growing up, the most influential filmmakers in terms of what I thought was the great genre pulp, it was Cronenberg and John Carpenter.
Right.
And their early movies, because they were both pulpy and yet they worked as other kinds of, like Escape from New York is pure sci-fi comic Warren magazine pulp. New York is a walled maximum security prison and the president crashes inside and they have to send basically Clint Eastwood / Snake Plissken in to get him. And I'm like, that could have been a heavy metal comic from 1978.
Or The Rook. It could have been like a storyline from The Rook when you said Warren magazines.
Yeah,
Look up The Rook, guys.
Yeah.
R-O-O-K.
Yeah. No, it totally could have, and that's what I grew up watching in those movies, because they were smart, and yet they were pulpy, and that was the thing. They didn't betray. Like you look at The Fog. The Fog plays it really straight, but yet you've got ghost lepers that come in, and they come in the fog, which is inherently a very pulpy concept, but it's done in such a way where the rest of the movie, the locations, KAB, Antonio Bay, where they shot that bay, it was beautiful and it felt real, and it wasn't green screen. And when they're on the beach finding a piece of driftwood that turns out to be from the Elizabeth Dane, they're really on a beach. And there's no matte painting in the distance.
You don't have to tell me about the love of the
I
fog.
know.
I look. I've named my film company after it now. So it's like I've just like boom. That's it. I adore that movie, in its simplicity and its effectiveness.
It's just so much fun to watch.
Yeah,
it's great.
But yeah, I mean, I kind of miss that too. But again, I don't know if it's just because we've seen so many things, and when we were discovering these things early on, they were all new to us. Everything was new, and it was like we hadn't seen any of that. And we lived through the golden time where we could actually see the progression of technology and ideas combined together in this incredible way, where now I think so many people take it for granted. And I can't speak for anyone, because I don't know if they just take it for granted. But I would think after getting 23, 24 Marvel movies that are all, so beautifully made and the effects are perfect and everything, that you would start taking this stuff for granted. I would think after Jurassic Park. Well, Jurassic Park was amazing, and then you got some duds using CGI. But I think after a while they reached the point, at least technologically, where it's like, yeah, you do take this stuff for granted now. It's like, oh yeah, it's very impressive. I mean, to the point where even the people on the screen aren't reacting that much. I was watching a little bit of Spider-Man Far From Home today, with the first attack of the first elemental with the water and everything. It's like, and people are just standing there looking. I would have been hauling ass the fuck out of there. It's like, what the fuck? There's just it's a water beast thing. It's like, oh wow. I would have been like, no, out of here. So, yeah. But I think that's every generation's burden. They always pine for the simpler days.
Well, but we lived through a time when we were getting films that delivered. Like you'd read Fangoria, and there were seldom movies from like 78 to 85, or maybe even 87, that you'd go see and be disappointed by. There was so much stuff that was so much fun to watch. I mean, Carpenter's output, going from Halloween to The Fog to Escape from New York to The Thing to...
Dude, you don't have to even go John Carpenter at that point. You can go Joe Zito and still have a good time.
Yes.
It's like Friday the 13th, the final chapter. You get, Invasion USA. You get, Red Scorpion. It's like, come on. I mean, not all.
Look,
not
James
all
Glickenhaus, too. The Exterminator and The Soldier and McBain. And
absolutely.
He had a great 10-year run. I mean, that was even the lower budget movies. Like even Cannon's output. When they were doing the American Ninja with Steve James and Michael Dudikoff, and
and
the Sho Kosugi movies,
Ninja 3, The Domination.
Yeah, I mean, all that stuff was, but it was fun. It delivered the goods, and now it's so interesting because I feel like we're now in an age where everybody expects these movies to come out and change their lives. If a movie isn't everything to all people, if it wasn't 100% effective, and if it wasn't just perfect, then there's this huge backlash. And for me, when I was watching The Tomorrow War, I was putting myself in the position. At first, I was really being critical of it. I was even wrong about something. There was something that really bothered me, and I just didn't pick up on something. I changed my mind. I tweeted something about it. I'm like, you know what? I was corrected, and I went back. And I'm like, okay, I was wrong. But I'm looking at this movie, and I'm thinking, this movie, if I saw this movie in 1983 or 4, I would have loved it. I think about those B movies, like that should have been a movie that came out from Avco Embassy Pictures, or mid '80s New Line,
or New World.
Yeah, New World, something like that. I mean, it was a little, but because it kind of had that plot, it could have worked. The story still could have worked on a much lower budget. And then there's the way it works with time travel and everything they do with it's pretty interesting. It'd be fun.
And the thing is, it might even benefit from a lower budget.
Well, yeah, I mean, because it gets to the point, yeah.
Part of the charm of some of these things is to see how the filmmakers figure out. I mean, The Running Man's a pretty low-budget movie, but it's pretty damn fun.
Yeah, it's fun. Look,
it's not the book. I know that, but
they could remake The Running Man. I think they are. They're remaking. They can do the book and it'd be totally.
Well, Edgar Wright is supposedly going to do it. That was the last announcement of it. So no, but I mean that's the thing, and I'm all for that. Like, okay, that's a Stephen King remake I can get behind because the source material is so different. I got to be honest. I don't need a Christine. I don't need a Firestarter. I don't need these remakes of movies that are of their time. And again, that could just be, oh, cranky old man syndrome. I'm not sure. It might, but again, I don't, because we're not the young people going to movies today. So I don't know how they feel.
But young people don't look at movies the same way we looked at movies anyway.
No, that's true.
Movies do not occupy the same exalted position in pop culture that, I mean, franchises do.
Right.
Like, I think people I want to see the new Marvel movie. But in terms of movies themselves, I don't know many young people that even in this genre space. I talk to a lot of people, obviously younger people, but I'm amazed at how little a lot of young people go back into cinema history. And it's such a different thing. Like when we were younger, it was like we needed to see all horror movies. Like you'd go back and you'd watch the progression. You'd go back and watch the German silent Nosferatu, and you'd go back and watch Metropolis, and then you'd watch the Universal monster movies. And there was never a time like I never was like, that movie's old. Like that thinking never even entered into our minds. It was like, no, I'm going back to watch the Universal monster movies because they all were of nowadays. If something's too old, I think modern audiences, especially younger people, are like, it's old. I'm not going to watch it.
No, that's true. I mean, there's always going to be those who are attracted to the Universal monsters and the classic movie and stuff. I mean, look at the popularity of Joe Bob Briggs right now and his show, and most of those are older movies. So
right, but I think that there's an element of there's a postmodern element where because Joe Bob Briggs is presenting him and things on The Last Drive-In, which I think is great because I've always loved Joe Bob Briggs.
Right.
But there is still an element of tongue-in-cheek with what they're doing. You know,
but the nice thing is with him, there always was. The difference is he's actually he not actually. This shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. He comes off like your friendly Uncle Bumpkin or something like that. But the man is so incredibly intelligent and schooled and about movies. I went to Beyond Fest here in Los Angeles the last time they had it in public at the Egyptian Cinema and watched him do a 2.5 hour discussion about redneck movies. It's like, why couldn't you get that at film school? Just because he made it so interesting, not just entertaining and not poking fun at the movies. Because the nice thing about Joe Bob, for the most part, I mean, yeah, he'll get forced to throw in a dud every now and then, but he has such genuine affection for these things. And I think that is definitely getting through to people who are younger than us to appreciate these movies for what they were. And I think the thing is, you have to, you can't expect everything to be a Marvel movie, and you have to, and I'm not saying that everyone is, but I think you really have to find those things that, again, if I was wrong, then why are the Friday the 13th movies still so popular? Because you know what? As much as I love them and I grew up with them, they're fucking dumb as bricks, with the exception of a few of them that actually work as scary movies. But the logic in most of them is really pushing it, to be kind about it. But the thing is, you go to watch those not for the logic, but you go for the thrill. And again, the same thing with the Halloween movies a lot of the time. I don't know. It's a very interesting thing. I'm very curious what other people on the watching think too about these things. So
you know what else though too? I think that and this is going to seem funny to say, but you know what is missing from modern horror?
Sex.
Fucking. Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah.
Fucking. There's no more, like, there is no, we have bled all, because the idea of sex and death go together, the act of creation and all that seduction and like you go back and now it's like we have completely desexualized female characters. They've all got to be smart and capable and all, I get all that, but the fact is people want to fuck. And they have ways they like to be fucked and get fucked and do fucking. And part of horror, like if you look at movies like From Beyond and Reanimator, Stuart Gordon brought in a twisted sense of sexuality into when you see a disembodied head go to give head to a woman, I mean, there's a lot of levels working there, and we're missing that. We're missing that.
Well, we're missing that, and the thing is, it's weird. Someone else I was listening to called this sort of the 80s, we're the new conservatism. We're the new, but it's worse than that, because even in the 80s we got things like Reanimator, we got Return of the Living Dead, where Linnea Quigley is walking around for over half the movie almost completely naked except for leg warmers. We had that stuff and quite a bit of sex, but now it's even worse. It's almost the new puritanical sort of thing coming in with these movies, where it's like, well, everyone has to be respected, everyone has to have a voice and stuff. And I think that, if you have to treat every movie character, and the thing is, can we please remember, these are movies, this is not supposed to be reality or a reflection of reality, that if you have everyone be respected and everyone has a voice and everyone this, again, I get it's a reflection of modern times, but the thing is, you are sucking the life out of the potential of these movies to actually hit a chord.
Well, we're sucking the life out of our own culture. We're pretending our biology doesn't exist, our programming doesn't exist, and what I mean, Kaz Graphics sends in a super sticker.
Wow,
thanks for that, Kaz. Kaz is, of course, the official cheesemonger of the Burnettwork. But I think that one of the things is, look, now we have a million different porn sites. So what we've lost, I mean, watching people fuck, you can see that all over the place. What we've lost is eroticism. And the idea that things that were erotic, I mean, the eroticism is, now you can see the act, you can see the mechanized act, you can see penis thrusting in vaginas, or vaginas crushing up against vaginas, and
anything you can think of.
But that isn't eroticism, that's porn. No. And eroticism is all about the preamble, the lead up, the promise, the seduction. And I think we've lost that. There was, and that was all part of, the thing about horror as a genre. I love science fiction, but I think I've gotten more out of the horror genre throughout my entire life, between the books I've read and the movies that I've watched, because science fiction is the way humanity wants to be. I mean, if it's not dystopian, horror is the way humanity is.
Sure, and clearly many times shows the weak or the worst side of us and everything. But someone just said, NR just said the King movies didn't have any of that, and they're right. There's very little sex in Stephen King movies.
There's very little sex in Stephen King's books.
That's true.
He doesn't write.
Except in It, where there's a gangbang.
Well, but that's a weird, look, you read Bret Easton Ellis. One of my favorite sex scenes I ever read in any book was in Glamorama. It's this bisexual sex scene that goes on forever, and it's one of the most incredible. I love literary porn; it's fantastic, or literary eroticism. And look, a lot of the horror novels that I read, Graham Masterton, James Herbert, Graham Masterton, who later went on and wrote sex manuals, but his books really turned me on to all kinds of sex, and that's why I love them. I read James Herbert books and Graham Masterton novels, these British writers. You think about the stiff upper lip of the Brits, not these guys. They were writing hardcore sex and all that. I mean, I learned the difference between doggy style and anal sex from a Graham Masterton horror novel. I was happy to learn that knowledge. Thanks you very much.
Didn't even need a picture. Didn't even a sketch for it.
Nope. Nope. Read about it, and I was like, I think both are appealing. So, okay. Yeah. But I learned all that from horror novels, and the eroticism was there. And Clive Barker, of course, his books, the sexuality in his books is out there, man.
I mean, I believe, his sexual written escapades were so out there that I didn't, at the time when I started reading them, I didn't even know what he was talking about. When I saw Hellraiser, I had no idea what S&M bondage was. I had no fucking clue. I just this is the most original thing I've ever fucking seen. It's wrong. It's crazy. But yeah. So yeah.
By the way, Comic Quirks with Jimmy sends in a super chat and says, "How do I get a hold of Dave Parker for an interview?"
You can find me on Facebook, and you can find me on Instagram at Parker Vision. So very easy.
Parker Vision.
Parker Vision, and and then we got no problem talking about any subject and Henry Wolf. So we got there are no limits with Midnight Metal.
Yeah, Midnight Metal. We talk about anything, but I mean, you can't. That's the thing. People can't even talk about. It's so weird what we can't discuss anymore. It's bizarre.
Taken out of context, anything that we've said on these shows, we could be, in today's society, we could be totally canceled. And you know what? Bring it on. You know what? Because it was funny. I was listening. Quentin Tarantino did a really great interview with Joe Rogan this week.
I watched it.
And he talked about the whole Bruce Lee thing. And the thing is, I love Bruce Lee. I wasn't offended when he did his scene in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and I'm kind of amazed anyone did, because guys, remember the title was called Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's a fucking fairy tale, and he said it in the title. What are you getting your panties up in a bunch for with Bruce Lee anyway? And he had a really good justification for it. And he goes, yeah, I can understand, if his daughter was upset at me or something else, but everyone else can go suck a dick. I'm like, good for you, man.
I know, and he said that too. I was like, you go, Quentin.
Or was it eat a dick? Either one. Anyway, you know what? And he was like, you know what? You can't be canceled if you don't let yourself be canceled, if you just don't agree with it. He said that too, which was really interesting. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily true, but the thing is like, hey, do your thing. I mean, be a good person. Don't fucking, shit on people or anything else. But it's like, at that point, hey, I'm just saying. And R said, Dave, I'm not offended. It's just not my taste. I don't know exactly what you're talking about. If you're talking about, dick, that good for you. That's not your taste. That's fine. Who cares?
What are you saying?
What, Lorraine? What? But
everybody
anyway.
needs a little dick in their life. That's what I would say.
Or a big one, depending on what you like. I mean, who cares?
I'm not a size queen. I can't be.
You do you. However it is.
That's right. No, but I think though that eroticism, the pleasures of the flesh, is a huge part of horror, because obviously horror deals with mortality, and it deals with aging, and it deals with that's why I love The Hunger so much. I know it's so it's different than Whitley Strieber's book, but what Tony Scott was doing with The Hunger, I mean, the idea that immortality would suck because you're going to outlive all the people that you love, and eventually, one of the things I love about that movie is Miriam Blaylock. She's beyond gender. Over the years, she's taken lovers of both. She's had men and women, because when you're looking for a companion and a lover, and you're not so hung up on gender, and you're not going to procreate, then you can concentrate on your sexuality and develop that. And if you get over, I think ultimately it's possible for people to be intimate with anyone. You can have an intimate, bringing another person pleasure. If you're an immortal that's lived for 2,000 years, you're not going to really worry about gender issues. You're going to do what you want because you've moved beyond that. And I think that, but there's so many interesting ideals about, okay, so David Bowie's been in love with you, and you've been together for 300 years, but then suddenly he's aging rapidly, and the promise you made me of being together forever and ever, oh great, well now you haven't told me that I'm going to age in a day, and you're going to put me in a box with all your ex-lovers, and I'm going to have to spend eternity in the attic,
right,
talking to all your other lovers over the last 2,000 years. I mean, that sucks.
I mean,
and that's honest, truly horrific. What happens to him in that movie is really horrific.
Yeah, because it's not like he's dead. He's just existing but can't do anything. I mean, that was one of the first ones who really showed the unappeal of being a vampire.
Yeah.
If Lost Boys is like, oh, fuck yeah, I'll be a vampire, but the counter is not. So, very, very interesting, very, very good stuff. But we got someone here, man.
We got somebody here.
Thank God.
We can hear. I don't know if you've got headphones on. We can hear you, Darin, but you can't hear us. Well, we'll see. We'll put him in. We don't have to put him in immediately. We'll give him a chance.
Hey Rob, why don't you fill people in? Why Darin's getting this stuff together? Why don't you fill people in on Mr. Darin Scott a little bit for us?
Well, okay. Darin Scott, first of all, is one of the great people I think that we know in the entertainment business. I mean, he's certainly one of the nicest people. Yeah, we can hear you, Darin, but we haven't put you in the show yet. Can you hear us? You can't hear it. You can't hear us, can you? But anyway, so Darin Scott is a writer, a director, a producer, and his career began back in the 80s. A cursory glance of his IMDb will tell you, as a producer, he produced movies like Menace to Society, Fear of a Black Hat, Stepfather 2, Make Room for Daddy, From a Whisper to a Scream, Love in a 45, and he has both produced, written, and directed part of the Tales of the Hood 1, 2, and 3 franchise. I work with him on the Femme Fatales TV series. He directed 8 episodes. I directed 5 for HBO and Cinemax. And he's recently directed things like, well, Tales from the Hood 3, American Nightmares, Tales from the Hood 2, and Deep Blue Sea 2. And he has a lot of insight into the business. And hopefully, Darin, can you hear me yet? I don't know if Darin can hear me or not, but Darin, I'm going to bring you on the show. So everybody, welcome. Welcome, Darin Scott. Darin, you are in the show. You seem very relaxed, very chilled. I don't think he can hear us, but maybe he's watching the show. Can you hear us, Darin?
Well,
we can hear you. We can hear you, Darin. We can hear you, sir.
There he is.
Do you have headphones on? He doesn't know. Darin, you're on the show. You're live, buddy. He doesn't know. He can't hear us, but we can hear you. Maybe I'll send him a Facebook message to tell him to.
I'm texting him right now.
Text him right now and say we can hear you. Here, I'll until we get him back on. I don't want him to make him look wacky. But so that is Darin Scott, and he's going to be on. He's here with us. We're going to bring him on, but he knows a lot more than most of us. He's forgotten more than most of us even know.
That's true.
So Darin, I don't know why he can't hear us, but
I can't hear you. I'm going to say try headphones.
Yeah, headphones, Darin? Do you have headphones? Maybe we should have Connie hook him up.
Yeah.
Connie and her experiential engagement division of Harmon.
Guys, bear with us.
Why don't you, Dave? Why don't you give us some?
Darin's afraid of technology.
Darin's getting his headphones. He'll get it. By the way, another thing that Darin did that was interesting was he used to teach a directing course.
Yeah, he asked me to go speak at it a couple times.
Yeah,
too.
he's traveled around and it would tell me about it. Okay, Darin's added some headphones. Maybe you can hear us. Darin, can you hear us?
Okay. Oh, there we go.
Okay, Darin, we're bringing you in.
We're good, guys. We're good.
Darin Scott, Scott, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome writer, producer, director, one of the great men of Hollywood currently working today, one of the nicest guys in the world. We got to work together once on a Lifetime TV movie. It is my great honor and Dave's great honor to welcome Mr. Darin Scott to Midnight Metal. But Darin, I have to ask you, are you feeling fucking metal? Are you feeling metal tonight, Darin? Are you metal?
I'm metal. I'm mellowed out, baby. I'm mellowed out.
You're mellowed out and metaled out. One of the things I love about
I'm mellowed out. Yes.
Darin, in addition to being a writer, producer, and a director, you also have a great love of classic cinema, film noir, Italian horror.
Hold on just 1 second. I'm on a YouTube television show. What's wrong? Okay. I'm like, is it a problem?
By the way, Darin's wife, Tony, is an incredibly talented artist of world renown. She's had gallery shows in China.
Right now.
So yeah, tell Tony, tell her how much I love her work and that we should be able to talk to you.
Yeah, she's complaining about the loudness. Okay.
All right.
It's all right.
That's what earplugs are for. Come on, babe. Anyway, so Darin, you're also a cineast, and you have a vast working knowledge of cinema history. I would like to ask you. You have a very interesting, circuitous route how you actually got into the film business. And I would love to hear, I think the people at home around the world would love to hear, how did you find, you transitioned, you weren't working in the movie business right away. Where were you at, and how did you find yourself in the business of entertainment, Darin?
Well, I was always a creative kid. I loved writing short stories and loved going to the movies, loved the movies, but I never considered it as a possible career. I mean, in Inglewood, California, there was no influence from the movie business or connection to the movie business. Grady moved in, Whitman Mayo, the guy who played Grady on Sanford and Son, moved into Inglewood about 2 blocks from me, and that was a big deal in Inglewood. It's like Grady, So, people always kind of say to me, "Well, you grew up here." I'm like, dude, Inglewood is about as far from the movie industry as whatever town in Iowa you came from. But I was really interested in science also. And as a kid, I wanted to be a scientist, and got into all sorts of messes and adventures doing experiments and things. But
you ever bring back anybody from the dead?
Huh?
Did you ever bring back anyone from the dead?
No, but I once mixed when I was 5 years old, I mixed together a bunch of household chemicals that I thought would give me superpowers, and I drank it.
Oh, no.
So I suppose you would consider the heaving that succeeded that kind of me coming back from the dead.
Sweet.
That's about as close as I got to it.
He has brought some careers back from the dead, though.
Yeah, you have. You've resurrected careers. That's true.
Yeah, that's what I tried to do. So anyway, I went to USC to major in chemical engineering. I had wanted to be a scientist, but a career counselor had told me that engineers made a lot more money than chemists. So I became a chemical engineer. And it turned out that it was the undergraduate degree that you started out with the highest salary from when you got out of school at that time in the early 80s. I'm so sure it would be some computer science degree today, but back then it was chemical engineers. And I went to work for Procter & Gamble in Oxnard in a paper plant. And I was given responsibility to handle millions of dollars in technological improvement projects. And in doing that, I came in as a 23, 24-year-old kid, and I'm leading guys in their 50s who've been doing all this stuff forever. And I haven't been doing it, but yet I'm managing them. I feel like that was really great preparation for me for entering the film business, because that's what you do. The first movie I ever made, I wrote and produced. And all the people who I was supervising had been in the business, some of them for decades. And it wasn't uncomfortable to me to take on that role because I had done it right out of college. Another thing I had done right out of college is to get into a relationship with a young lady who turned out to be certifiably insane.
Absolutely awesome.
Also good training for the film industry.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
Every actress you're going to work with, and actors
Exactly.
too.
And actor, yeah. So, I was living with her. Then things fell apart in spectacular fashion, and I ended up moving in with my very good friend Jeff Burr, who we had been friends throughout our time at USC, and he was in the cinema school. And so when I moved in with him, we were living in Echo Park, California, right down the street from Dodger Stadium, as it would be. And, I was still working on my short stories, and I just got a stack of them in storage. And Jeff looks at me one day and he says, "Why don't you try writing screenplays? They pay for those."
That's because Jeff hated to write.
By the way, I should point out that we've all worked for Jeff Burr.
Well, more importantly,
yes, or with or
more importantly, the three of us. I mean, it's a little different with you, Darin, but the three of us, all our first jobs were with Jeff Burr.
In
the film industry.
I was the production assistant on Leatherface Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3 that Jeff was directing. And by the way, the nicest guy in the world. Was so nice to me, always gave me the time of day. I was in awe of him because he was the first director I'd worked with on a movie. So to me, he was basically God.
Same way. I was the props assistant on Eddie Presley, which he made after Leatherface. And it was just, again, and that was all due to Jeff. And he took a shine, mentored me, all this stuff that helped get me going, and has always been a real amazing supporter. I wish he was still in LA. I wish I could see him way more often and talk to him. But yeah, and he teaches now, Darin, right? He teaches. Is it Kansas City or Chattanooga? I think
I believe it's Chattanooga.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, he'll go up there and teach. So we raised the money. Jeff told us that he had some money in a trust fund that we could use to make a movie. So knowing that empowered me to do what I really wanted to do, which was quit at Procter & Gamble and throw myself headfirst into the film business. Now, of course, after I quit at Procter & Gamble, soon found out that Jeff could not take the money from this trust.
Of course not.
That trust wasn't released to him until his father passed away, which, thank God, didn't take place for a lot of years after that. So, if I had understood that, I would have never made the move. I probably would have never made the move. And so I am glad that that I was not deceived. I'll say misinformed on that particular point. And I knew, I had known I wanted to be in film even before he talked to me about writing and producing and stuff, because when the first video stores opened, the mom and pop stores in the early 80s, when I was working at Procter & Gamble, I got an internship, in other words, a free job at a mom and pop video store a couple of miles from the plant. And I worked there at night for free because I just wanted to learn the business. And the reason I wanted to learn the business was because I figured if I get in the video store business, I can watch movies all day at work. And go, what a great life that would be.
Right.
So anyway, I went for that. That didn't work out. And we decided to try to raise the money for our first film. And
that was from a whisper to a scream.
That was from a whisper to a scream.
Now, I want to point out that you wrote that film. You wrote segments because it was you, Courtney Joyner, and Jeff Burr.
Right.
And then you also you were a producer.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was an anthology film when they were not making anthology films anymore.
Yeah, and what I think is really cool about that is, you dove into the horror genre. You made an anthology, which they weren't doing, and you're working with your friends, and you had a screen icon in Vincent Price. Yes, many. I mean, if you look at it, like Vincent Price, Koo Gallagher, Cameron Mitchell, Rosalind Cash. Oh my God! From the Omega Man,
Susan Tyrell.
I know,
Lauren,
Terrence Knox. I mean, Lawrence Tierney. It's
Terry Kaiser.
Martin Beswick.
Martine. I mean, it's unbelievable. This film is just so. Your first movie was just all kinds of juicy goodness.
Yes, it was.
So what was that experience like, going from Procter & Gamble to a video store? Now you're not just making an anthology movie with your friend and Courtney Joyner, but you're working with cinema icons. Now, were you aware of how iconic, like, did you know who Martine Beswick was? Did you know all of Vincent Price's movies? I mean...
Rob.
Vinny I knew, yes.
Rob, come on, man.
Martine, I did not know as well. But I knew she had been in some Hammer films.
Yeah, see, well, I'm not saying Darin was beginning his education. Yes, she was a Bond girl.
And she was a Bond girl.
She was a Bond girl. You know, I knew Cameron Mitchell from seeing him on television, but I didn't know everything about his career. I learned about all these people soon. Vinny, you know, was a childhood hero of all of us. So
right.
Vinny, in the horror field.
You can call him Vinny. I love it.
I will tell you this. It wasn't an instant decision to do a horror anthology. Jeff had wanted originally to do an art road movie called The Revenge of the Schaffner Sisters.
Jeff. Jeff always having his finger on the pulse.
It wasn't a very commercial concept, in my opinion. So I suggested that we do a horror anthology for two reasons. One, I love horror anthologies. Still love them, obviously. Yeah. Two, I figured, look, we can get a bunch of names in it because they only have to come and work for a week.
You got to scoot your camera down a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, there you go. Got to see your beautiful face, man. Come on.
So they, I figured we only needed these people for a week at a time, and we could probably shoot Vinny's part in 2 or 3 days. So that made sense because we were trying to raise $250,000, and that's not a lot of money, especially when you have to bring the crew from LA to Dalton, Georgia. And we shot in Dalton, Georgia, 1985, me carrying original freak Angelo Rosito on my back. He later went on to be Master Blaster.
Yeah.
Well, you were Blaster before there was.
Yeah, yes, he was Master, actually. He was only one half of Master Blaster.
Well, no, Angelo Rosito would be Master.
Yeah.
Blaster. So Darin was Blaster.
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Before there was a Blaster.
And, there were a few incidents down there, but I never felt particularly uncomfortable until 35 years later to find out that Dalton, Georgia is the district of Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
oh shit.
I'm glad I got out of there alive.
Yeah.
Well, that brings up a point that I wanted to touch on with you. In the 90s, you produced a lot of, I would say, I don't know what you'd want to call it, classic black cinema.
That's a good word for it. I like that.
Yeah, I mean,
to Sleep with Anger.
Yeah, I mean,
which is in the National Film Archive now.
Yeah, I mean, To Sleep with Anger, and if you look at the people, again, the people that you worked with on these movies that you were producing, but what I think is really interesting, To Sleep with Anger, Fear of a Black Hat, Menace to Society, Tales from the Hood, Sprung, which you also wrote with Rusty Cundiff.
The brothers.
Yeah, and the
Don't
brothers.
Love in a 45.
And Love in a 45. Yeah.
where we discovered Renee Zellweger.
Yeah, but I don't think. But Beloved in 45 was kind of an outlier in that it wasn't necessarily.
Oh no, it wasn't a black film.
Yeah, it wasn't. But it's funny to me because everyone's talking about nowadays about representation and all that. But there was a lot of really vibrant black filmmakers working in the 90s, making a lot of really interesting indie film. And it's like, has everyone forgotten about that? And I mean, you were involved.
It just ended, in the early 2000s. It ended and it became everything had to be Tyler
Perry.
Tyler Perry, yes. Once he started putting his films out, there was a 10-year period when the only thing you could get made with a black cast was Tyler Perry movies or Tyler Perry lookalike movies.
That's crazy.
That seemed like they were Tyler Perry, and those movies weren't movies that I was particularly interested in doing, and so I was writing for the studios and doing assignments, selling pitches, and
I want to go back to the 90s and what you were doing. I mean, John Singleton breaks through with of course, Boys in the Hood, but I thought, to me, Menace to Society that was the movie. Boys in the Hood was good, but when I saw Menace to Society, it really knocked me out. I'm like, now, okay, this movie,
the real deal.
It was the real deal. And it's interesting because, you made a variety of films that had black casts and black filmmakers, comedy, hard-hitting urban thrillers, the Brothers, which is sort of very
romantic comedy.
Very sprung, a romantic comedy that you also co-wrote. I mean, don't forget
Waist Deep, which was basically a Bonnie and Clyde type.
I mean, you did a lot of diverse cinema, diverse genres with black audiences in mind. What was that like in the 90s, and was that difficult to mount, or was it easy? I mean, and again, your filmography, everybody talks about voices in cinema today, and I always think about you going, well, Darin was doing this back, 30 years ago. So, where's the Darin Scott producing retrospective at the American Cinematheque, or like, why aren't you speaking in front of all these movies at the Arrow?
It will be. It'll come.
Let's talk to these guys and get it going. Hey,
I'm all for it. But what was that like? And did you feel, that was your calling, or did it just work out that way?
No, you know what? I've always liked all sorts of movies, all sorts of genres, and all sorts of people. So for me, I always had a bunch of projects. That was a very diverse bunch of projects that I was trying to get made. And for that period in the 90s, there was a little, black film renaissance, so to speak, after a very fallow period through the 80s. And so those were, the projects that got financed. So it wasn't really like I set out, I only want to make black films, because obviously I didn't. I did 11 or 45 or whatever. Yeah. But
you just want to make movies.
I wanted to make movies, but I think the studios, the powers that be, saw me as, it was far different than today, when you go in on something and they'll see you as, could you do Deep Blue Sea 2 for us? Okay. See, that wouldn't have happened in the 90s. In the 90s, it would have had to be Deep Blue Sea in the Hood for them to consider me for it.
By the way, I would watch that movie. Yeah, I'm like, I'll see that.
The hood gets flooded with sharks.
But that's changed for the better. So, but the 90s was a cool period because we had the DVD boom. And smaller movies could still make an impact. It was kind of the indie film renaissance. So because of that, smaller films, and I mean $3 to $6 million films, they could get wide theatrical releases and have the possibility of doing well. We made Menace to Society for $3 million. and it grossed 28 and a half the first time through.
Nice.
And
Then-
that was just theatrical. Never mind when home video exploded.
Home
Oh,
video.
and that movie must have been huge on home video.
Well, it's
Massive.
a perennial. It's a perennial now. It is considered a legit classic. So
Yep.
yeah, of course. Darin, I wanted to backtrack a little bit, especially for the people watching. So I have a couple questions, but I want to start with, what was the film when you were watching it younger as a kid that really gave you the spark, that really was like, oh, this, I'd like to do this someday. I mean, like, or, just really like lit your fire, especially within like the genre sphere of maybe science fiction or horror. What was the one or a couple that really like made you take notice of movies, like, in a different light than say just casually?
I have to think about
Good
that
question.
for a second.
Good question, Dave.
I have to think about that for a second because, unlike almost everybody I know in film, I never considered or thought of going into film until I was in the back half of my 4 years in college. And that's only because I was around people who were in film school. It never occurred to me. I loved movies.
Okay, so how about this?
Mm-hmm.
How about what was the first movie that you remember like really making an impression on you and just loving? That you're like, oh
man. There's a lot of movies I saw when I was a kid. If you say within the genre, the first movie I think that scared the shit out of me was Blackula.
Okay.
And that was, something that was shown in my neighborhood theatrically. And there was a particular scene in it when this female taxi driver comes back from the dead and runs down the hallway at the nighttime attendant. And it's just terrifying.
Right.
And that stuck with me for years and years. I'm trying to think of other horror movies that I was allowed to see then. We had two theaters in my town.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being a little kid and seeing Sounder. And
Yeah.
I remember being a little kid and really, really liking the computer that wore tennis shoes. All of those.
Kurt Russell, Dexter Riley.
Those Kurt Russell, Dexter Riley, Joe Flynn as the angry dean of the
Strongest
school.
man in the world.
All
That's
those.
right.
I liked all those, and then we saw a lot of westerns. Red Sky, I think I remember being one that really made an impression on me. I just love movies. I would stay up late at night to watch the Universal horror movies that came on at midnight. Seymour's Monster Rally or Fright Night or any of the other little franchises that they exactly that they built up out here. So I love the Universal monster movies, everything, because I saw those starting when I was like 4 or 5. And I would sneak up. So I was not supposed to be up that late, but sneak up with my blanket and turn it up low and watch these movies late at night. But I'll tell you, the ones that really made an impression on me as far as horror was concerned was seeing The Horror of Dracula. That blew me away. And after that, I started, anytime anything Hammer would come on, I wanted to see it. But that was the one they showed the most, Horror of Dracula, which is still my favorite take on the Dracula mythos.
Yeah, and speaking of, I'm sorry, Rob, but I got to bring this up because everyone needs to know how this is super fucking metal. Is Sideshow Toys.
Oh, yes.
Premium format Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing from Horror of Dracula that they just announced this week that you can only be on an RSVP list for, which I probably can't even afford, and I will just pine over Rob's when he gets them.
Oh, dude, I gotta get that
I want
shit.
them both badly.
Yeah,
Hold on one second. I'll be right back.
What? Our guest is
amazing.
leaving? Okay, well, hang on, Dave. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about our love of action figures. You know, let me find those and bring them up.
Yeah.
Now, you know, you don't usually wax rhapsodic about action figures, and
but these are amazing.
No, they are amazing. Oh, I guess Darin's back.
And
They're
Darin's
beautiful.
back, but still.
We all, yes, and that's the beautiful thing. Now, Darin, I have to ask you. Somebody has fired in a question. Jimmy J. Jr. sends in a tip and says, for Darin, producing Menace to Society, did you find the Hughes brothers to direct, or was the film already set with them to direct?
Oh, okay. I produced a music video for the Hughes brothers called Brenda's Got a Baby, which we shot up in Oakland. And when I went up there, I met these two, because the production company had hired me to produce it. And I met these two 19-year-old kids who were the directors.
Wow.
Which just blew me away. And I could see, as we worked through the day, that they had a great visual sense. And I was impressed. So, you know, as a producer back then, you know, you hunted for talent, tried to find it, and then tried to go champion it. It doesn't quite work that way today for independent producers, which is why I don't do much independent producing anymore. But in this case, I said to them, what do you guys want to do? I mean, you're doing this so young, et cetera. And they said, we want to be filmmakers. We want to make movies. I said, well, you got anything, a script or something you want to make? And they said, we have a script that our friend Tiger is working on for us, that we've been working on with him, Tiger Williams. And we should have a draft in 2 weeks. I said, I want you guys to promise me that I will be the first person you let read that script.
Wow.
And they said, okay. And when it was done, they sent it to me.
And that was all just from the experience of doing the music video with them.
Mm-hmm.
And you could recognize their talent. So, to me, that's exactly the way how this business should work. That you were working with somebody and you were able to recognize budding talent, and you were willing to bet on them because you had already seen they could do a good job.
Same thing happened with Renee Zellweger. They didn't want to cast her in our movie. The studio, they wanted a name. They wanted Jennifer Rubin. We had to.
Wow, that would have been a very different movie.
Very different movie.
Yeah, we threatened to quit. It was an empty threat, but it at least shows how serious you are.
Yeah.
We threatened to quit, and they said, okay, you can cast her, but you can't cast that other guy you want, that Matthew McConaughey guy. No.
Was he supposed to be the Gil Bellows role?
Mm-hmm.
Wow,
amazing.
Because they had already worked together on the Chainsaw movie in Texas.
Yep.
Yeah.
Boy, Darin, that was not all right.
I mean, it all worked out. Luckily for at least one of them.
But now let me ask you this: at the time, you know, were you're seeing talent like you asked him? That was a very shrewd thing to do. Send me the script first.
Yeah.
And obviously, you went on to produce Menace to Society. That was a big leap. I mean, these kids were young, man. They were like you said 19, so you're looking at 20, 21-year-olds when you're making Menace to Society.
20-year-olds when we're making it, yeah.
20-year-olds. These directing brothers, Los Bros, Hughes, are making a movie at 20, and you're the producer, so you've gone all in. You're playing Texas Hold'em, and man, your chips are all in on the table. Did you ever have any trepidation for that? Did you ever second guess your trust in them, or did it? I mean, obviously the film speaks for itself, but while you were making it, did you ever have any long dark nights of the soul going, what have I got myself into, or was it a joyous experience throughout?
Creatively, it was a joyous experience throughout. creatively.
So you were correct.
Now, yes.
Creatively, but I'm sure
Yeah,
I'm sure there was a lot of
Look.
hassles. Like,
the studio was on our case because it's very controversial stuff we were shooting, and Bob Shea, who backed the picture from the beginning, and
That Bob
cried.
Shea was the president of New Line. He also backed
Yes.
Lord of the Rings, for those of you who don't know.
Yes, and he cried when he read the script. That's why it got made. But people were coming at him saying, "Oh, this is too controversial, or this is too dangerous, or this has a bad message." So I was, managing that and having changes done to the script that would not dilute the script, but would keep him from panicking.
can you go into that a little bit without? I mean, maybe not going into specifics of a particular thing, but how do you manage to fight those battles with kind of like with the nervous upper ups there, but still maintaining I mean, a very gritty movie, something that has to be hard hitting, because if you water that down, it doesn't work. So how
you have to give them something. You have to give them something. You always have to give something. This is the thing. People think I have to win every battle as a filmmaker. No, you have to win the key battles.
Was that hard to keep the Hughes brothers in check with? Because I would assume, being so young, they probably wanted to fight every battle, or and
Yes.
Did you have to like talk them down and go, here's why this one's worth giving up?
Yes, and sometimes I just went around them.
Okay.
And I was the authority figure.
Yeah, you had to be.
And they hated me for a long time for that.
Really? Did they finally come around and understand what you were doing that they didn't at that age understand?
I've had Alan come up to me more than once and say, "Hey, man, you did a great job. We didn't understand at that time."
Right.
Because I was the one who had to tell them no.
Yeah.
Right.
Bob didn't want to do it directly. The studio head people don't want to do it directly. That's my job.
Yeah, you get to be the villain.
Yes. So when someone had to say no to them, it was me. So, being at that age and not being used to being told no at all on their music videos, because the producer of the music videos was someone they hired. He was a friend of theirs.
Right.
So they had total control. And now they didn't have total control. And the person who was always the messenger, and you shoot the messenger, so it was great making a film and having it come out so well and have it be beloved by so many people over a couple of generations. But yeah, it was difficult. It was a difficult experience, the actual shooting of it. And we shot in a lot of very tough areas.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes our crew did not make wise decisions while we're out there. And a couple of times we just had to just pull up stakes and bail out
Oh, God.
before something really bad happened. I'll just give you one example. We were in one of the worst parts of Los Angeles. It's a very gang-ridden area called Grape Street. And the Grape Street Crips are there, and everybody's wearing purple in that area. And you just don't mess with the gangbangers there. And we had a police car that was a picture car.
So for people at home, that means it's not a real police car. It's a car for movies. It's rented for movies.
But they didn't know that.
Yeah,
Well, a bunch of little kids were crawling all over the car. They were thrilled. Here's a police car, and we can play on it.
Right.
So they're playing on the hood. They're playing on this, which was fine. We'd rented it for that. I wasn't worried about that. I'm trying to make a movie. One of my ADs looks at them and says, Get off that car. You'll be riding in one soon enough.
Oh no.
Oh,
Oh, dude.
They ran off to tell their big brothers.
Oh God.
And I was like, everybody,
leave.
we're going. Load up. We're out of here. You, AD, second AD, are fired.
You're fired.
And
Yeah.
the rest of us will have, we've got some negotiations to do with the neighborhood committee, so to speak, before we can come back.
Wow.
And did you do that?
Yeah,
Did you parlay?
yeah. Well, we came back because we had some of the guys. Whenever you shoot in an area like that, the first thing you got to do is find out who are the OGs in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Who are, who's respected, whether they're banging right now or an ex-banger or whoever, and you hire them for security.
Yeah.
And even though it's not a big paying job, it's something real.
It's also respect.
And
you've gone to them with respect.
Yes, and I had this one guy on Menace to Society. I swear to God, he's one of the scariest looking individuals I had ever seen. He just had a way about him, his energy, his face, everything, where you were just like, dude, you do not mess with that guy. Well, he was one of the hired, guys, and we hired him to do security and stuff while we're doing. And the last day, he came up to us and thanked us and started sobbing.
Wow.
And he said, nobody ever gave me a chance to do anything to him. Nobody had ever given him a chance to do anything legitimate. He didn't say the word legitimate, but he just said to do anything. And I was like, wow. That was impactful on me. And, this guy just wanted a chance. He wanted a chance to
I think that's what
do something good and do something real and have self-esteem.
Yeah. Well, that's something we've completely forgotten in this country.
Yeah.
As we argue and bitch and what people want is just a chance to prove what they can do. And you provided that. It's interesting. I think Dave and I got a little taste of that when we were in Bulgaria. There was a lot of people. I talk about this conversation I had all the time with this girl that worked in the bar at the hotel I was staying in. Her and her boyfriend. I asked her what did she want to do, and she said I'd love to open a cafe. And with my boyfriend, I'm like that's a great idea. And she said no one in Bulgaria would ever say that.
No, the thing that I learned there pretty quickly too is that the crew, my line producers made fun of me for going to set every morning and saying good morning to everyone, and then at night thanking them and saying good night.
They thought that was silly.
But the whole crew, they're like, "Oh, do you want us to wait for you or what?" And I was like, "Look, I can get a ride. You go if you want to go." And the crew was just, they were not used to being treated with respect or treated that way. And it made all the difference. I mean, even when I was having a hard day or the line producers were giving me shit, I would have Bulgarians that could barely speak the language coming up to me and go, just roll with it. We're here with you. And it was like, that's what got me through. Yeah. It was like knowing that, now again, push come to shove, if these line producers threaten them to do something, while we're quitting right now, instead of giving this guy his extra take or something like that, maybe they would have, but it was still nice to hear, that come from people that didn't know me from anyone.
Yeah.
And it was just because you treated them with respect. It's always, the thing is, it's always the little things that make all the difference. And I think in life, no, forget the movie business, just with people in general, it's always the little things.
Yeah.
Please and thank you should not be hard words
No.
to use.
No.
Darin, our great friends of the channel, moderators, filmmakers in their own right. Twin Flicks, who's let's give a shout out to their father, who's having a difficult time health wise.
Sorry to hear that.
Twin Flicks dad. We're pulling for you here. Twin Flicks say, Darin, big fans here at Twin Flicks. You've done it all in this wacky business, but a Sophie's Choice question here. If you could only choose one, which would it be? Writing, producing, or directing, and why? I love how he's got the light of heaven behind him.
I just like it's like Darin's taking his nightly vitamins before he goes to bed.
Yes.
Guys,
Sonnies.
You are getting the real Darin Scott experience.
And I love that he's because I'm the director. That's why. Look at that shirt, dominating the frame with the God rays behind him. What is that? You're drinking Bud Light?
Yeah.
Don't show that on my channel. Come on.
Is that against the rules?
No, it's not. No, drinking is good, but Bud Light.
Guess what? Trust me, it's midnight.
I don't
metal.
have any Jamesons, dude.
Yeah, Darin, it's Midnight Metal. The only sponsored, accepted beer is Dos Equis because it's from Phantasm.
I got some.
Actually,
here.
Allagash.
Is that okay?
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
No, I'm sorry, dude. It's Dos Equis.
No,
because it's Phantasm. That's it. Done deal. Done.
One of these Allagash White. Allagash is they were early friends of this channel. So
you just like to say Allagash.
So
Allagash.
wait a second. Let's get back to the question was.
Yeah, Twin Flick's question was Sophie's Choice. If you could only choose,
do you hide that tequila? Like in the back of the toilet or something?
Come on now. No, this is serious. Let's not derail this metal conversation. Come on. This is a good question.
You do that because I have questions.
Sophie's Choice. Darin, which one would it be? Writing, producing, directing, or why? If you could only do one, and you've done them all, and done them all well, but if you could only do one, what would it be?
Directing.
Why?
Because it's interactive. You're working with people, you're working with other talented people, and you're working to shape their creativity and their creative input. And it's just the most fun, invigorating thing in the world. Directing also encompasses writing to an extent because you're doing ad libs, you're working with the actors. Depending on the quality of the script, you're rewriting small or large portions of it. Writing would be number 2 for me. Number 1, actually, for me is writing, directing.
Right.
To direct something that you've written, that's the ultimate. That's way up here. Mm-hmm. If you can only write, but you don't get to direct it, you're going to feel a frustration and dissatisfaction out of the fact that there's going to be things that's not how I would have done it. Now, that doesn't even mean that the director's wrong. I mean, I think that the writer and director of The Exorcist are still fighting.
Even though one of them's dead.
And one of them's dead.
One of them's dead now. But you're right.
But Freakin's using the Ouija board to talk to Blatty, a.k.a. Captain Howdy, and go,
death,
that's not very nice.
Still doing interviews and arguing.
But you know what? Freakin capitulated. He did do what Blatty wanted him to do.
To the detriment of the movie.
Yes.
That version is a fucking travesty.
But that release proved Friedkin was right all along.
Yeah.
So it was a win-win. Blatty got the version of the film he wanted to see out there for the world to see, and Friedkin was able to prove,
Yeah.
I was right. That's
Yeah.
the way to do
And
it.
by the way, to me, The Exorcist is my favorite horror film of all time.
It's a masterpiece.
It is a masterpiece.
The only one that I like better is Rosemary's Baby. But
Well, that's it's funny you said that's my number 2.
Okay, so we're right there. It's a flip flop.
I've been there. Ask me if I've been somewhere. I've been there. Roman. I want to be Roman Castevet in my old age. I've decided I want to start a witch's coven, and I want to stand by and watch while Satan comes up from the Stygian depths of hell and puts his seed.
Data's won.
Hey, Rob, let me ask you.
Yeah.
How's it feel to know that you're going to get your dream in 3 years?
Am I? Well, I don't know, man.
You're gonna be Roman Cassavet's age in 3 years.
That's I don't know. Come on, man. I still look good. Come on, I have a childish, youthful face, right?
Yes, you have a baby face.
I've been there. So wait. No, Shogun Orta sends in a super chat and says, maybe a way for everyone's modern wants for representation is to have the smart guy but also the stupid girl, but also the smart girl and the stupid guy. A full spectrum of characters.
Oh, fine.
But what I find so interesting is I thought that we were on a good path. Like representation and evolution, same-sex marriage, a lot of new voices, marginalized voices are coming to the fore. Moonlight won Best Picture. I thought we were on a good track. Society was moving forward evolutionarily, so everything would take. Everything was working, and then suddenly over the last 5 or 6 years, we've spun off into crazy oblivion. In terms of representation. Now, Darin, I've noticed.
What do you mean by crazy oblivion?
Well, in terms of like we were on representation was happening. We were on a good path.
You think they're trying to rush it too much?
Yes, because there is a natural evolution of these things, and I look at your filmography back in the '90s, like what you were doing, and what's really interesting is. It's not like you, other than Tales from the Hood 1, 2, and 3, and American Nightmares. Is that what it's called now?
Yeah.
American Nightmares. Which one of the things I love about Tales from the Hood is you do deal with black issues in those movies in a very, like Star Trek did, you're using the horror paradigm, but as an allegorical way, and we're
trying to touch all social issues.
Yeah.
Instead of just being stuck on thing. I mean, we have stories lined up that deal with LGBTQ issues. We have, because one thing that we've learned is whatever social issue is creating problems in the United States causes 2 or 3 times as much problem in the minority communities.
Yeah.
And, just look at COVID right now. Where do you have the highest death rates?
Yep.
Yeah.
Minority communities, Black, Hispanic, worst, but besides the people, obviously, who don't believe in it and don't want to protect themselves and don't want to get a vaccine.
Well, I mean, in black communities, it's not like America's always done well when it comes to vaccinations, like the Tuskegee experiments, and there's a lot of
tremendous
distrust.
amount of suspicion and mistrust, which is very sad because at this particular time, it's causing a lot of death. And there's people who were worried about one thing when they should have been worried about another.
Yeah,
unfortunately. And
so, how do you incorporate these issues as an artist in the work you're doing? I mean, one of the things I really like about the last 2 Tales from the Hood films that you've done is I think you've done a great job, especially I really love Tales from the Hood 3. You showed it to us in finished form, and you Tony Todd and you've got the Candyman remake, which is coming out the same day as a movie I made. So
I can't wait to see the Candyman remake.
Me neither, man. I can't wait. But I mean, it's when you're making films, are social issues important, or should story, like I've always said,
entertainment is first.
yeah,
Well,
I've always said that
Entertainment is first.
to me,
If it's not entertaining, any message that you try to pull through is going to be whoosh, just go by them. You have to entertain first.
Right.
Once you've entertained, and I'll often sometimes start with a particular issue in mind, but until I've come up with an idea where I can tell an entertaining story that involves it, then it just sits on my list of issues. I got a long list of issues. You hit that sometime, I try to make it organic, at least in my own process, where it comes together like that, as opposed to, here's a good horror story I have. Let me try to shoehorn an issue into it.
Well,
That's hard to make work.
I've always said on this channel, from the very beginning, that the Burnett axiom used to be never put your universe before your stories or your characters, or actually your characters and your stories. And now it's changed. I've changed it. Never put your agenda before your characters and your stories. Because it begins with character, and character gives way to storytelling. And you have to have that. And hopefully your agenda is built into the story that you're telling. So to hear you say, I now I'm going to have to amend. I love the idea that the first thing you have to be is entertaining, because I am tired of people telling me that when you make a movie, and I don't know if you agree with this, but you presuppose that you're making it for an audience. Otherwise, why make a film at all? It's not like you're writing in your diary. If you're making a movie, you're making it to show people, which means the audience, your audience, when you make a film, must be at the forefront of your mind. Entertaining them is your number one priority. And to hear you say that, it just warms the darkest recesses of my soul. So thank you for that.
Good.
I do have I have one thing.
It is the entertainment business.
But because you are doing these Tales from the Hood films and the series, and this could be a completely naive question and stuff. Is there an extra pressure or a burden to come up with social stories and then figure out how to make them entertaining? Is there that burden, or does it just not work that way? It's like, hey, I want to do a vampire story. How can I make this work in the environment now?
In my mind, they come together.
Okay.
There'll be an issue. There'll be a bunch of stories I have that are just stories. And sometimes it's just a little twist or addition that makes it where it's like, oh, okay, now this is intrinsic to it. Now this is organically part of it. Because what I don't want to do is do a story and then, have somebody do a little speech at the end so that so we get a message across. The message should be, or the theme, or whatever you want to say, it should be intrinsic to the story. And if it is, and you have a good story, now you entertain people, and as they're entertained, a seed of thought. I'm not a person who believes that you can put out a movie and it's going to change the world. Everybody who sees it, because of the power of your presentation, is going to go, oh, I was wrong. That's right. But what you can do is plant seeds to get people to think. And it's a cumulative process of changing people's biases or hatreds or whatever it is, and you kind of use yourself as a guide. How have you evolved and changed? How have I changed how I felt about a particular issue or something, and now I feel differently about it. Some of it's maturing. A lot of it is exposure to different kinds of people.
Mhm.
and things that happen to you, or things that you hear about, or stories that you've heard. Because that's, after all, story is human communication.
Right.
Really, really, all human communication is a story.
I
It's
I mean,
just,
completely agree with
it's
that.
just,
yeah,
yeah.
and the other thing I wanted to point out, and I wanted to commend you on too, because it's something that I've really learned from you that we haven't talked about that much, is how you actually, um, again, you use the power of what you do with directing and writing, and that's the thing that a lot of people, I think, get it wrong, where they're very heavy-handed. Where you and Rusty, especially on the tales from the movies, but you specifically, you really understand the power of the medium of film, where everything doesn't have to be said. So much of what you do visually communicates what you were just said, and the quote unquote, what other people would say is the agenda or the message coming through. You're never heavy handed with it. You come at it very naturally, and you always allow the story or the piece to let the viewer make up their mind of what they think, as far, especially with the tales films, and that's a very delicate uh balancing wire that you do. That's very good.
Dave, I just
Thank
want to
you.
step in and say I want to mention, you said Rusty Cundiff is a man that Darin has collaborated with now for the better part of 30 years.
Yeah.
And they've been making the Tales from the Hood films together
It
again.
is.
And Fear the Black
And
Hat,
Fear the Black Hat. I
Sprung,
mean,
and many
Sprung.
things.
They've worked together, and I since you brought it up, Darin, I would love to hear about the relationship you and Rusty have, the creative collaboration. I mean, the fact that, like, I've been privileged to come to early screenings of your various iterations of the Tales from the Hood films, and I've heard stories that Rusty has told about having to drive his kids around because they don't have driver's licenses, and the two of you, you have a brother, and I mean a brother in arms, not a brother,
Right.
but a man, a person,
Brotherhood.
a friend that you've had a creative collaboration with for the better part of 3 decades. And
Yeah, on and off.
and
Definitely, absolutely.
and in a way, I mean, Dave Parker
And
and I've
very
been
much so on right now.
yeah, Dave Parker and I've been collaborating for almost 30 years. I mean,
Sure.
Dave taught me how to cut a trailer, and what is it like? What is it like to have a collaborator like Rusty Cundiff? And of course, that creative partnership ebbs and flows, but you're still working together.
I know.
And what does that mean for you? And what's it like to have that kind of a creative collaboration? How do you develop that trust, that artistic, creative trust?
It's just over time. Over time, I mean, look, if you're in a creative partnership with somebody, you're going to have a lot of disagreements and arguments over everything. I remember one time on Tales from the Hood 2, he was supposed to shoot the wraparound, but he had gotten behind on his episode that we were shooting in that location where we had to leave. So he had to shoot that, and so I shot the wraparound. And we got into a brouhaha over how the chairs were going to be arranged. I wanted to arrange the in a 50-50, an oppositional 50-50. And he wanted them angled this way towards the camera so we could see their full faces. It didn't really matter which way you did it. It really didn't. And after we went at it for a while about that, I just said, you know what? This is the section you were going to shoot. If that's the way you want me to shoot it, fine. And he's like, for real? You mean that? I'm like, yeah. It's not worth the fight over the angle. It's silly. And I think what we learned from that and over the years working together. And I always thought that as a producer working with Rusty, that he was always creatively generous. You know, I would talk to him on the set about my ideas, or what about doing it this way, or blah, blah, blah. And he would either do it or not, but I'd say it was about 50-50, which is about the best that you can ask for when you're a collaborator with the director. You know, if they're doing everything that you suggest, then they don't know what they want to do.
Right.
So that'd be a bad sign. So anyway, so we have learned, I think, to give constructive criticism to each other without stepping on each other's toes. And that's a tough dance to do, especially when you've been working together a long time. And it's the reason why most creative partnerships flame out spectacularly after about 10 years or less.
Wow.
When you think about it, think of music acts. Think of your favorite bands. How long did they last before they were at each other's throat and they had to walk away?
Before Van Hagar happened.
Right.
Yeah, but the Stones seem to make it work.
Yeah.
They're one of the rare ones.
They're the rare one. Heart. They made it work.
The Eagles. Not
the
so
Eagles.
Much.
Well,
no.
but then they
came back. The hell freezes over.
That's
after
right.
about 10 years. And Rusty and I, we worked together exclusively almost for about a 10-year period. And then we took about 10 years off.
Mm.
And then we start working together again. And most people never come back from that. Or they come back way later. When we came back way later, more mature.
Mm.
More mature. I mean, otherwise, I'm sorry, you guys are a great example. You guys go at it all the time. You guys are talking about a project, working on a project. It's war. I'm like, guys.
That only happened once. That only happened once.
What do you? Come on, man.
No. We only
about it.
We only went to war one time, and it was over it was what it was over. It was over the Blu-ray.
I know.
We only went to war really once. It wasn't to war.
Okay.
And by the way,
is a big word.
By the way, let me just say live on this show, I was wrong. I was wrong, and you know what? I was a dick. And I reached out to Dave. I wrote him a letter. I said, I was a dick. I was fucking wrong. And I apologized. And I said to him, I'm like, come on. Like, this is our project. Did I not, Dave? I was a dick. And
absolutely. I mean, I'm just going to remember this moment in time for the rest of my life. But...
no, but it's true. And by the way,
no. But
the
hold
point
on.
I'm making isn't about you two. It's about any and everybody.
Creative relationship. Yeah.
Creative relationship.
Mm.
You know, there's a lot of friction and frisson. I don't care if it's Hitchcock and Bernard Herrmann
or Alma.
Sure.
Or
yes, and Alma.
Whatever,
indeed.
Alma. Whatever pair you find who have worked together a long time. You know, Billy Wilder and A.L. Diamond. I'm sure there are times when they want to strangle each other.
Yeah,
that's part of the process. Otherwise, you're not getting much out of the partnership. But it's been going very well lately. I think we have both matured a lot.
Yep.
And how we talk to each other and everything about our creative suggestions to each other. You know, in a way where it can last this long, because otherwise you get what you usually get. And yes, you mentioned the Stones, but you also didn't mention the fact that they fly into their shows on separate planes. They do their stuff separately. They go to the stage. They see each other. They play, and they go. And
that's right.
They hardly ever talk to each other.
Yeah, but
you know,
what else do they have to say after?
It's the same with Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons. But the bottom line is, you know, my thing is, like, even with Rob, when Rob and I do get into that, the thing is now, what's different, what's easy is the fact that when Rob apologized, it was like, that's it. That's all I wanted. Let's move forward. It's all about being productive. It's like, the nice thing is having creative relationships that have lasted this long, where you can bounce something off someone, is you can be kind of bluntly honest about shit.
Yeah.
And know that it's like, okay, they can take it, because, like back and forth. It's like, there you go. So, and you can take it, and then, do it, have your little tiff, move on.
You know what
Yeah,
I
no,
say?
I have to say that, like, Dave, you are one of my oldest friends in the world.
Yeah.
And we have actually almost, we have 30 years of history. And it was like I can be a dick, and it just it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to throw away a friendship or whatever. And to do
It really
this,
doesn't.
no, and it was only when I manned up and apologized, and we actually got together and made the Hills Run Red Blu-ray for Scream Factory, and it wasn't going to win, but it was nominated for a Rondo Award.
Oh, it's spectacular.
Yeah, like
And
Dave and
that's
I,
put a
but
ton of
between
stuff
the
on.
work that Dave did and I did, we were both doing different things, and it was Dave did this unbelievable retrospective stuff,
Yeah.
and then I had the. So, I mean, it's look. I one of the things I'm most proud of in my 20-year plus special features career is the Hills Run Red disc, and it might not have happened if I didn't realize I was being a dick.
And bottom line is this: the one thing that we can always connect on is the work.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's a really great thing. So,
Yeah.
and
And now we're doing a show.
Yeah.
Because Dave and I
Here's
are
the-
fucking metal, dude.
There we go.
Fucking metal.
Very metal.
Darren, are you ready to pass out?
I'm not ready to pass out, but
All right. But Darin,
I'm ready to let you guys go on.
Okay, hang on a second. I know you're an old man now.
Hey,
Let's
Yes,
face
I
it.
am.
Hey,
I am.
There's a few questions I would love to have you participate in.
Yeah.
Saber Wolf sends in a tip and says, all those moments will be lost in time.
in time. Like tears in the rain.
Man, can you really hear the pain and sorrow in Roy's voice? Amazing scene. Question Rob and Dave and Darin. In y'all's opinion, who gave the better performance, Rutger Hauer or Harrison Ford?
Oh, man.
Rucker Howard.
I would say that
I
too.
would say Rutger because
Yeah.
his performance had a lot more depth to it.
But the other
Yeah.
thing is, he also had the more showy role as well. He actually had
Police.
he had
man.
he had way more leeway to.
Did you
Yeah.
get your
more.
precious photos?
Yeah.
But you know what? They're doing such totally different things. One guy's carrying a movie, and
Exactly.
he's the romantic lead. He is the romantic lead because he's got the gorgeous replicant that he's
Right.
hanging out with, and the other is the anti-hero.
But the bottom line is,
You
if
know,
Harrison,
the
if Harrison,
villain / anti-hero.
yeah, if Harrison Ford didn't do his performance the way he did it,
Yeah.
then Howard's would not have worked as well.
Yeah, so they're both great performances. I hate to even put one above the other because they're trying to do different things.
Yeah.
It's like asking if a pitcher and a great batter, which one's better? Well, one guy throws the ball, the other guy
Exactly.
hits it. So
Yeah. Yep.
I agree. By
mean,
the way, Twin Flicks sends in a tip and says, I watched, this is the film I most want to see. I didn't know it was on VOD right now. Twin Flicks says, I watched New Order on VOD before Midnight Metal, and holy fucking shitballs, that's the one sentence to explain it, and that ending is wow. I highly recommend it, but a word of warning,
Order.
it's not for everyone. New Order is the film from a Mexican director about a leftist uprising. It's set at a rich, posh Mexican wedding, and leftists attack, and it's all about the haves and the have-nots and the social order. It's called New Order. I want to see this movie so bad. It's very hard-hitting. And do you guys know anything about it? Are you?
No, but I'm going to look it up now.
Yeah.
Okay, Darin, you guys.
I've just heard you talk about it.
I've been talking about it for months, and I haven't seen it. I didn't know it was on VOD. So yeah. And by the way, the Twin Flicks guys say that they thank me for playing their promo today on the show. I'm gonna play it again tomorrow. The Gilmore brothers are foundational members of this channel, and I want to thank them for their support. And I know their father his health is at stake, and they're starting a new analysis channel. I'll play the video tomorrow. You can see the video on today's show. So anyway, and also Terrier from Norway says, Happy Independence Day, metalheads.
That's right.
So, okay, I got one. This is a good one.
Okay.
Jason Clutchy sends in a super chat and says, actual guys, 1987's The Gate.
I love The Gate.
It is the greatest horror film. He says it's the greatest horror film ever made. I love your show. Great show. Thank you.
The Gate is fucking metal. I mean, it's so metal. That's what opens The Gate. It is fucking metal. So
I love The Gate. So
yeah,
if it's his favorite ever, hey,
great Randy Cook special effects. Yeah.
Okay, Darin. Ma Law sends in a super chat and says, opinion on the Falcon and Winter Soldier speech. I would imagine the Isaiah Bradley and
I thought it was great. I
now,
thought it was great.
I mean, I got to ask you. I mean, again, I'm always interested in politics, and and I thought, to me,
they both had a very valid points of view,
and we've talked about it. I mean, I fucking loved the Isaiah Bradley, Sam Wilson conversation. When Bradley was abused and he's like, America sucks. I've been brutalized for years and years. And Sam Wilson says, you know what? Yeah, you're right. And I'm still going to fight for what's right. I'm going to assume the mantle of Captain America. I thought that whole series was he gave up the shield, and then he realized what he had done wrong. And he's like, despite everything that's against me, the fact that America has never been equal, black men in America have never gotten their due. Even now in 2021, actually it's 2023 in the Marvel universe. He's like, I reject you, Isaiah Bradley, and I'm going to show you that things can be different. And I'm like, that's what a hero does.
Rejecting Isaiah Bradley,
but that's what a hero does, isn't it?
I think what he's doing, yes. I think what he's doing is he's building on Isaiah Bradley's accomplishments, and he's building on what he went through. Because if not for Isaiah Bradley and the Tuskegee Airmen, etc., he wouldn't be getting a chance to be Captain America. We'd probably be 20 years behind.
Yeah.
Those guys flew dangerous missions and never lost a single bomber.
Which is unheard of.
Tuskegee Airmen.
It's unheard of, which is why it's so amazing.
They made sacrifices to save these bombers that were basically suicide moves because they were so determined to prove a point, which was, that black men could be war heroes too and could accomplish great things in the war. So I think, because he's able to stand on the shoulders of a giant like Isaiah and all the societal change that is taking place in the intermediate and the accomplishments he's made. It all was very earned when they got to the final episode and the title goes up and it changes to Captain America and a Winter Soldier. And I personally went nuts.
Yeah, well, let me ask you this. I mean,
it's a huge thing. It really is. You cannot discount how vital and important that moment is.
Well, I've said this to you before, but I've noticed. I mean, call me crazy, but you're black. I don't usually think about it. What was that like? What was that like for you? I mean, to see like Black Panther and to see the reaction. I think that what people in this country don't understand is that racial politics have been so divisive. But when we see things like what happened, the movie poster alone for Black Panther, and then what we see with Sam Wilson, his decision, I mean, this is joyous stuff. We should all be celebrating it. It's what America is all about. It's for people to get recognized and have a voice, and there's no downside here.
I'll tell you some big moments for me in science fiction, in geek cinema. Yaphet Kotto's part in Alien.
Oh, dude, come on!
At the time, I was like,
I want to talk about the bonus situation. Come on.
He wanted to talk about the bonus situation, but he also
wants to eat something, but right now food will do.
He also wanted to know, why don't we just freeze him?
Right. Yeah.
Which he was right.
He's the smartest guy on the ship, goddammit.
He was smart and he was brave. He got himself killed because of the cowardice of another character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Who he could have just abandoned or just started blasting and said, hey, if you don't get down, you don't get down. But that's not what he did. He dove in there head first with a rifle butt and got his neck torn.
Yeah.
I thought he was a noble character while also being really funny
and smart,
really down to earth
and self-aware.
Yeah, self-aware. So I loved that character as a major character in Alien. I'm talking about landmarks now. There's a million characters you talk about in.
No, of course, dude. I look. I'm totally with you. And by the way, you know what was great about that character in Alien? Yaphet Kotto was loved by everyone.
Oh, of course.
The way that movie was structured, the way they told that story, it did not matter what his race was. It was a man who was great at what he did. Yeah. And smart and funny, and you liked him. And it was because he was a great character.
Yes.
Yeah.
At least 25 hours to get this fixed. And the next one that was like an exponential jump was Will Smith part in Independence Day. I remember sitting in the Chinese theater and saying to somebody partway through the movie, and I might have said it to you, Dave, I forget it. I said, this is the best part I've ever seen a black guy get in a big sci-fi movie like this. I couldn't believe it. I mean, he was all through the movie, kicking aliens' asses, dragging them out, coming up with funny lines.
That's what I call a close encounter.
And in the end scene, a black guy and a Jew use a Macintosh to save the world. I said, this is fucking cool.
There was nothing like, and I don't know if you said that to me, but I remember we were the Chinese opening night, the Man's Chinese Theater in Hollywood opening night.
Yeah.
And seeing that movie, it was like going to a concert, because as soon as the opening happens and it goes to the car to the next day, and the dog has just leaped to safety after the first attack.
That was the biggest cheer.
And the entire audience went out of their chairs, standing ovation, just cheering like
the Golden
crazy.
Made it. The Golden Age.
but the thing is, because the buildup was so perfectly
Yes.
timed and staged, it was so exciting. I haven't had, with the exception of Endgame, a
Right.
theater going experience like that since.
You know what, Dave? I got to say to you, I think you're right about that. I mean, Independence Day and Endgame, seeing those for the first time in the theaters, you know what's really funny? Because both of those movies lived up to the marketing hype.
Oh,
You know, I mean, we'd seen Infinity War, which, by the way, I think Infinity War and Endgame are two of the greatest examples of fantasy filmmaking ever.
They rock.
yeah.
But Independence Day was the same thing. The marketing campaign.
No, but the
Genius.
thing is, it exceeded Independence Day exceeded the marketing campaign because we didn't know really what it was.
Yeah, no,
it just looked really cool.
Yeah,
but when we saw it, and the thing is, the testament of it, that movie, that first movie, still works today, and on the same level. It's still so entertaining. It hits all the beats right. It was just the perfect storm. Those two just hit that zeitgeist and hit that script just perfectly. The combination of entertainment and spectacle in just a really fun summer popcorn movie way.
And not only that, we talk
the next exponential leap from my concerns was Black Panther, which was it was like, to me, Black Panther was like the cinematic culmination of the "I Have a Dream" speech. It's like, blockbuster at last, blockbuster at last. Thank God Almighty, we got a blockbuster at last.
And I gotta feel,
dude, you didn't just get a blockbuster, you got a $1 billion plus blockbuster.
Yes.
I mean, anyone who ever said that black films couldn't make money was all of that. The conventional wisdom was destroyed
And
by
I've had
Black
several
Panther.
who told me that all the time when I would try to work with them, who have now come back to me now and go, "Oh, well, it's totally different now. Yeah, we can sell things overseas, and we can do this, and we can do that."
No,
And
you
I'm like,
always could have. Always could have. You just
had to
try.
have someone have the vision of it, and that's the thing. And we're getting ready. Marvel's giving us that again, with Shang-Chi.
Yes, and now this moment is not as big as the ones I just mentioned, but still super impactful. Anthony Mackie is Captain America.
Oh yeah,
Captain America. Of all the parts that they could have given a black guy in the Marvel universe,
Captain
the
America.
most symbolic.
And by the way, he earned it.
Is Captain America, and he earned it.
He earned it. Look at what people fail to realize, and I think there's a really weird fan backlash happening about the Marvel Cinematic Universe right now, which I don't get it. But remember, go back to Captain America: Civil War when Anthony Mackie was introduced. The whole "on your left" when he's being lapped by Steve Rogers.
That was, Winter Soldier, not Civil War.
Pardon me. It says, pardon me. Yes, Winter Soldier. Yeah. And that's how the movie opened. Yeah. It was so great. And when they paid it off in Endgame, on your left, I mean, I say it aloud, I get goosebumps.
Oh yeah, no, that moment choked me up. That moment choked me up in theaters, and the fact that out of all the characters that could have let Captain America know they're back, that what they did worked, that it was that it was Sam, was just like, well, yeah, of course.
It was so perfect. I mean, it was so. And what's funny now is the critics of these things, and there's people that are critical that I'm very fond of, but I don't think that they quite get the fact that they're looking at the agenda of it all or whatever. But I'm like, what Kevin Feige and Marvel is doing is they're looking back into their comic legacy.
Yeah.
They're not going
all
like
happened in the comic book.
yeah,
20 years ago.
yeah, man. They're not going like, well, because we have to have some woke agenda. They're like, no. We're gonna go back. The Time Variance Authority in Loki was created in the '80s by Walt Simonson.
Yeah.
You know, and they're going back, and what I don't get is why that's not more respected. And the idea of Sam Wilson taking on the mantle of Captain America. This is in the comics. They're going back. They're going back and taking stories that were already legitimized. Great stories.
But again, I mean,
okay, go on.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think what you have is among the fan base, unfortunately, an awful lot of people whose sense of self, whose self-esteem, whose sense of identity and worth is somehow strangely tied in with all their heroes matching them exactly. In other words, and they've been spoiled to that degree pretty much up to the last few years. I think there are a lot of fragile, toxic fans who freak out. I mean, can you imagine that your day is ruined because you found out that a particular character from a comic book was going to be played by a woman or a black person or something, or in your Star Wars, there's going to be more diverse, right? And that's ruined your day, and you're typing away angrily about that. I mean,
Have you ever seen Star Trek Discovery? Oh, I'm just kidding.
no.
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
just
don't.
kidding.
We don't get to. Luckily, we don't get to talk about the ST word. On
Hey,
this
man,
show.
I'm just
Right.
making a joke. I'm outing myself as one of those people.
Yeah, you.
But I think that
and you
some
are.
of those people who get upset by things like that, they're just broken. They're broken, and there's a crack in them, and now you put some water pressure on it, and you see the leak. You see the leak. Oh my God! They've made this hero that I've always loved they've made her a woman. Oh my God! Are you going to be okay? Are you going to be okay? I mean, it's just so silly.
Well,
yeah. People
so silly.
people get upset about a lot of things, and
They're
look,
fictional characters.
right?
Well,
but-
wait. Hang on, guys, boys.
Well,
let me
no,
just
I mean-
let me just stop and say that all three of us, have been influenced by fictional characters. Fictional characters that were beautifully written, beautifully directed, beautifully performed. Fiction has shaped our lives.
Right.
But we've never lived in a world where our pop culture fictional characters, the origins of these stories that were being told are no longer with the individuals. They come from corporate interests. And it's like, okay, Bob Iger, you bought Star Wars for $4 billion. So now let's put our marketing team in place and have them tell us what can we do for Star Wars to make it most profitable for our company. When really what it comes down to is the same thing it's always come down to. Great characters and a great story. And analytics do not have that answer. And so we live in a world where all of these franchises or whatever, you can do all the marketing studies you want. But the real thing that no one gets is it's the creative impulse of individuals that can tell the stories of great characters, great heroic deeds. You need that unique storytelling ability. That's what makes you money. And you cannot figure it out with an algorithm.
Well, yeah.
Well, sure.
Sure.
Sorry,
That.
I'm done now. I just want to say, Stub McShave from Sweden says,
Oh.
you, the three of you have all done great work. behind the camera. But have you ever been in front of the camera? And did you have any lines of dialogue? Well, let me just, to be self-serving, let me just answer that question by putting this up. Oh, there I am as Ross Campbell in Superman Returns. You can hear my voice. Yes, I was in Superman Returns. You see me for literally, I've counted 15 frames, half a second. But whatever, you hear my voice. Darin, Dave, have you been in front of the camera?
Yes, I have. And I have done some small parts, several with dialogue, and some shtick that it's pretty funny. And I was actually looking to see if I could find this clip. Probably can't on my well, you guys keep talking, but I do have a funny clip that.
All right, well, Dave, what about you? Have you been in front of the camera? I mean, I know you've been in Free Enterprise, if I can just say.
Yeah, but you cut my line, so I didn't talk in that. I've been in front of camera, on film several times, but I would say nothing memorable. I think the thing that's more memorable is there are several movies that have named characters after me. One is
that's true.
One is Adam Green's film Frozen.
Yep.
And the other one is James Wan's Insidious Part 2, where the main ghost in that movie is named after me. It happens to be a cross-dressing ghost, but that's
okay.
That's okay.
At least you're in.
Dude, if any ghost is cross-dressing, I consider that a victory. So that's, I mean, come on, how cool is that ghost?
So I think that's more significant than but I was in Dead Ate the Living. I was Babyface's Hands in Hills Run Red at times. But yeah, no, this is the most in front of camera I've been. I don't really like it most of the time.
Yeah, but Dave, you look sexy, dude. Come on, you're fucking metal. Come on.
I'm metal.
Sonny Dominguez says, please do a whole show dedicated to talking about the Mexican film New Order. Last week, Alex and I so wanted to discuss it in depth. It's a movie that must be discussed by the Post-Geek singularity. I would love to talk about it, spoilers and all. I love to come on and discuss it, Alex. Too. Well, you know what, Sonny? I'll watch it. Let's do a show. That's a great idea. I love it. Twin Flicks says, picked up one of my favorite films of the 90s, Alex de la Iglesias' Day of the Beast in 4K. Now, the biggest question for you all, was everything that happened real, or was it one long LSD trip? What do you guys think? Is Day of the Beast just an LSD trip, or did it happen? I mean, what's funny was when people say that, I'm like, well, it's a movie.
But in the movie reality?
But in the movie, did it happen, or
of course.
What?
Yeah, it fucking happened. That's what I say.
Well, Dave, I'd say that's fucking metal.
Fucking metal. Severin put out the 4K right there. The 4K fucking amazing. I can't wait to get that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, me too. I just got a shipping notice for my Santa Sangre 4K. I'm like,
there you
okay.
Go. Hey, that's
great.
Good.
By the way, Stubble McShave, my friend in Sweden, says, speaking of Independence Day, today it's a quarter of a century since it was released. By the way, that's true. Independence Day came out in 1996, 25 years ago. My God.
Oh, God.
I saw it at the Academy. I saw it in the Norris Theater. I saw it with Dr. Reed. Dr. Donald Reed of the Academy of Science Fiction, Fantasy, and Horror Film.
I love that guy.
Very, 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 very violent movie. It's very,
One of the
very
most
violent.
Hilarious individuals. I loved him.
I remember when I used
to
I
loved it so much.
slaughterhouses in Chicago.
That dude was hilarious.
Was very violent. Oh, it's Dr. Reed was one of a kind. Thank God.
By the way,
you know how you say sometimes you go, "Oh, I think that person might be on the spectrum." Dr. Reed was the spectrum.
Dude, he did so much for me. I mean, I need to do a whole show about Dr. Reed.
Really? No, I'm kidding.
Okay, yeah, but hang on.
That's
I just want to
footage of him, isn't it?
I just want to. Ron C sends in a very generous super chat.
Holy shit, dude!
Ron C says, "Gentlemen,
I want to be as fucking rich as Ron C. That's all I can say."
Hey, by the way, don't you think we do the work that like people appreciate it? Come on.
I obviously that's very nice.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Ron, thank you for your generosity in supporting the channel. Thank you very much. But what's really important. It's not about the money. Is his question, what he wants to say, and it's very astute and interesting. So, Darin, Ron C has been watching this show and digs it, and he says, "Gentlemen,
I'm getting seasick watching Darin."
I know. It's like he's like Darin's not down with the Zoom vibe. Like it's like
he cannot sit still.
Yeah, no. I'm like okay.
My God, it's like the Blair Witch Project. Right now.
Yeah, it's
but
like,
I'm just
oh my God!
Window, right?
So anyway, wait, hang on. Let's get to Ron C's question.
Yeah, sorry, Ron.
So Ron C says, "Gentlemen, metal morning. Avoid the obvious film scores: Superman, Star Wars, Raiders, etc. I enjoy heavy layers in a film score. Hans Zimmer is one. What are some of your favorite film scores?" Okay, Darin.
Tron Legacy.
Tron Legacy is a great
Well,
one.
that's Daft Punk. And by the way, I agree with that. And you can go to the HD download section. That Daft Punk Tron Legacy score from 2009 is one of the great film scores of all time.
I agree.
Yes.
Totally.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a film score that I've listened to more since it's come out.
I agree.
10 years ago.
Have you downloaded the HD version that has more tracks?
Yes, I have. And I have listened to them. And I thank you for leading me to them.
I know,
You're
right?
the one that told me about it.
Come on, man. I got your back.
Okay.
You know that. Okay, I have to say this.
You've sent me some other music stuff that was really cool, too. Groups I wouldn't have found out. What's that?
Dude, can we talk about Carpenter
Gunship?
Brute? Carpenter Brute. You and I and Elizabeth went to a Carpenter Brute concert. Oh my God.
It was awesome. I think that was the night Elizabeth realized, oh, this Darin guy really is just as geeky as everybody else. Because she was smiling at me as I completely went nuts. So,
Dude, you went. No, we were going nuts. I mean, I have to say, like, look, it might have taken me a long time to come around, but Elizabeth is fantastic. She's amazing. Yeah. And she loves all this stuff. She's an artist. She had a showing at, she's going to one of the most prestigious art colleges in the country, and she had a showing today. She had to go to college and show her paintings today in a gallery. It was amazing. She's amazing. But that concert, dude, was unbelievable.
But Rob, get back on track here. Scores.
Okay. Yes, score. Okay. So let me tell you who I love. One of my favorite scores, and I have hundreds of scores that I love, but I love Wojciech Kilar.
Okay.
And he wrote two scores that I think are two of the greatest film scores of all time.
Ninth Gate
and Coppola's Dracula.
Okay.
And he's dead now. But that guy, I mean, the way he could use instruments, and I love Wojciech Kilar scores for, but and also I love Tangerine Dream score for Thief, 1981.
I like all Tangerine Dream.
Yeah.
And my God, I Sorcerer, Risky Business, all that. I love
Near Dark.
Yeah,
Genius,
amazing.
Genius,
Near Dark.
Genius.
And yes.
So we're supposed to pick. We're supposed to pick ones that are not. Again, give me the question again, Rob. So
okay, the question is, hang on. Okay. Wait, where was I? It's.
See, I'm not picking any John Williams or anything like that because I just think it's.
Well, no, but everyone knows he's good.
Oh,
yeah,
It's.
Those are on the list automatically.
Okay.
So Ron C says here. So Ron C says, gentlemen, Metal Morning. Avoid the obvious film scores. That's actually a very astute observation. So
yes.
we forget the obvious film scores. Superman, Star Wars, Raiders. I enjoy heavy layers in a film score. Hans Zimmer is one. What is yours? So let's go off the beaten track.
I'm gonna go. Yeah, that's a great score too.
Did Rob even hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oblivion, yes.
Oblivion.
It's great.
Oh my God, Oblivion is so fucking awesome. You know what? That's almost Tron Legacy level.
Same director. He started as a music supervisor, as a music composer, and then got into directing. So
how excited are you for Top Gun Maverick? Come on.
I'm all over it because Kaczynski did a movie called Only the Brave.
Oh my God! About firefighters and air, amazing.
It's genius, and it sent me into a curled up ball of sobs because I knew that it was based on a true story, but I didn't know how the true story ended. And there's a point in that movie when you realize, oh my God, they're all going to burn to death.
Yeah,
they're done, and it was devastating because I wish I'd known before and I could have prepared myself, But what I'm saying is, I think Kaczynski is very underrated.
Oh,
at this moment. He did a couple of sci-fi movies there, considered derivative and everything. Okay, I understand that, but visually, his handling of music and the job he did on this drama, Only the Brave, it make me look forward to what he'll do with Top Gun. And
Okay, Darin, this is actually a really interesting question.
Wait, I didn't get to answer the last one.
Okay, sorry, Dave. Go, please.
Pour yourself a drink and just chill out.
I did.
Because I want to bring up a couple little people like named Danny Elfman, who's done some good stuff. Jerry Goldsmith. Oh, but then let's go. How about the Sicario score?
Good score.
How about that?
Great idea.
I'll be biased and go. I'm always good for a little Joseph Bashara. Conjuring score.
Yes.
His Insidious score. Look, I'm shameless. I'm going to plug my friend. So yeah, I like those.
Do it.
I love those. Out of the box a little bit. Christopher Young's score for Hellraiser 2.
Oh, come on, dude. How about Hellraiser 1?
But Hellraiser 2 is the opera. It's the
that
epic
is true.
Opera of Hellraiser 1.
But
I love that. And James Horner's score for Brainstorm. Amazing.
Oh, dude, one of my favorite scores ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
My Varese Sarabande CD of that is what? The movie came out in 83.
Yeah.
So that CD is 38 years old.
Yeah. It's an amazing score.
Amazing score.
Elfman, Christopher Young's score for Drag Me to Hell, I think, is amazing.
Yeah.
Danny Elfman's score for Darkman, incredible.
By the way, since you brought up Joe Bashar, can I just say I love him, and over the years he's always sent me just randomly. He'll show up in my Facebook feed, and he's like, "You need to listen to this record," right? And he sent me just techno bands, and I'm like, God bless Joe Bashara.
Yeah,
one of the nicest guys in the world, incredibly talented, and I just want to say that I've always appreciated the fact that for no reason at all, he just sends me random shit, and I'm like, and it's always awesome.
Yeah, no,
awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, there I would go. Sorry, so I interrupted. You were going to ask a question that you've probably forgotten by now.
Well, I have two questions.
Oh, go ahead, Darin. You're the guest.
When can he leave? When can he leave?
No, my first.
I think,
question,
Darin, you're having a good time, aren't you?
I'm having a great time.
I mean, we're at high seas with him, so.
Unfortunately, my wife isn't, and she gave me 5 minutes.
Right.
All right. Yeah, but tell her I look at all her artwork and I love it.
No, she's allowed it.
She still wants to go to sleep. Though.
Yeah. Well, Darin, if you have to go, I understand.
But he had a question
my other
first.
question was, can I come back on sometime?
Yes, of
Darin,
course.
Darin, you can be a co-host. Like I
would
have
love
no
to come
problem.
on
The
anytime.
three of us can do the show if it's okay with Dave. You know, I mean, I think we should once a month, maybe, the three of us, the Three
Whenever.
Musketeers Midnight Metal Show.
Sure.
I've enjoyed myself, so I'd love to do it again anytime you want.
Oh,
Maybe
it'd
we'll
be
have a
great
more
because-
specific theme next time. And I
Yeah,
can
because
prepare.
there's
What
so
you mean?
much.
You mean Darin Scott was not a good enough theme for you? Come on,
You know
now,
what? That's not the
man.
most exciting theme in the world to me. It's not.
Dude, I cannot tell you how awesome you were tonight. Can I just say, Dave?
Thank you.
Was Darin? I mean, your insight, what you shared with us.
When
this
is
is
Darin
what-
not awesome? The thing is, it'd be great to have him on because there's so much we didn't even get to.
Yeah,
We've only scratched the surface of things that
yes,
will be
but-
really fascinating to people to know.
Let's
but
talk
Darin,
about Jollos next time.
I can't thank you. I can't thank you enough, man. You,
Yeah.
the things
great
you've
to come
shared,
on.
imparted. This was amazing, and I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
I mean, I know we've been friends and all that, but you know, we're still like imposing on you.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
not
did
really.
promise
I just wanted to do it.
I did promise everyone that eventually Darin would tell them how he has managed to tolerate us for so many years.
No, that's a secret. I don't want to know.
That's
a
that's the cliffhanger.
Yeah.
That's a double. That's a
Yeah.
two. That's a two-part show.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
One for each of us.
Yeah. Yeah. All right then. So I would Dave and you and I will soldier on because we're going to bring people on the show.
Fuck yeah.
But
fun.
I want to thank you, Mr. Darin Scott, for
Thanks for having me on, man.
being
I
one of the
really
great,
enjoyed
one of
myself.
my favorite human beings on the planet Earth.
Right back at you.
A man,
Dave.
a man who is talented, insightful, thoughtful, a good friend, a great husband. By the way, people don't know.
Handpicked.
Darin, no.
Handpicked.
No. Darin married very, very well. Darin married not just an incredible beauty, but a woman whose talent is
Surpasses us all.
limitless. Yes, I mean she is. If you know about Tony Scott's work, my God, look into her work. It is just astonishing. And
Yeah.
if I can just say, before she was like being celebrated around the world, when you go to Darin's like 4th of July parties, which unfortunately would have happened today,
I know.
no one on the planet Earth threw a better party than Darin Scott at their house. And one of the great, I mean, hundreds of people, which it was
a blast.
it was
Until,
epic.
I miss him.
parties till dawn.
Dude,
I
it
miss
was
him badly.
Darin Scott threw the greatest party in LA. But one of the great things about it that people don't talk about is that Tony, his wife, Tony Scott's work, was all around.
Well, the
party.
house
You
was
go
like
outside.
an art gallery.
The house was,
right. It was like a
and
gallery.
her work, I mean, celebratory. It was so amazing. So please convey to Tony.
Yeah,
that,
drag her on next time.
Yeah, as much as we might just know that Dave and I and this channel is one of her biggest fans.
Yeah.
So,
And yours. Thanks, man.
Thank you, my friends. And
all right,
see
Darin, thank you
soon.
for coming on to Midnight Metal, and we will see you again, sir.
You will. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow, that was, come on, Dave, that was amazing.
As I knew it would be.
It would be.
Of course. But what I'm going to request is that, like, you go for a little bit if you're good, because I'm going to take the little break I need. I'm going to take a little restroom sojourn, and then I'll be back.
Please come
Yeah.
back. Come back,
well,
Nikki, come back.
I will come back. I will come back, but I will let
Baby,
Rob
come back.
I'll let Rob handle this, and when I get back, there'll be a surprise guest on. Whoever you bring on, it'll be interesting.
Okay.
Yeah,
then
bring
I'll-
someone on to like why I'm not on.
Right. Okay, Dave, you're off. You're done.